All right, shalom to the 12 tribes. All praise to the Most High Yahweh Basham Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. Shabbat shalom to those of you brothers and sisters who are keeping the Sabbath at this moment. If you're going to tune in or checking this out at a later time, shalom, peace, and blessings to y'all. So we're going to jump straight into the lesson. The lesson is going to be called Patriarchy, Purpose, Family, and Satan's Oldest Trick in the Book. Right? Last Sunday, I believe it was, I put a question and I said I'm going to ask questions or ask y'all to give or put questions in on my Instagram. And one of the most prevalent or most repeated questions was having to do with, you know, family, the man ruling the house, women teaching, all these types of things, which we're going to cover in today's lesson through the Spirit of the Most High. So, Brother Drea, good to see you on here. Shabbat Shalom. Hope all is well with you and your household. So patriarchy being the first of the couple of things we're going to talk about in this lesson, I'm going to get the definition of patriarchy. Okay, the definition of patriarchy is a system of society or government in which the father or eldest male is the head of the family and descent is traced through the male line. All right, this is the first definition. I'll read the second one as well, but I'm going to break down this first one real quick. So it says a system of society or government in which the father or eldest male is the head of the family. So just like with any system, there's a hierarchy in any system, whether it be government or whether it be local government, state government, countrywide government, but also in a family unit, there is a hierarchy, right? And the hierarchy in patriarchy is the father or the eldest male is the head of the family, right? This is what patriarchy is. It also says, and descent is traced through the male line. So just like we know in Numbers 1 and 18, it would show people's pedigree, Israelites' pedigree, and show what tribe they were from, judging by the seed of the father. This is also how patriarchy is judged, right? As opposed to in the Jewish religion, right? They actually go off of the mother's lineage or the mother's bloodline in order to judge whatever that child is, right? Which is actually the opposite of what the Bible tells us to do, because we know if you plant an apple seed, if you plant a gala apple seed, it's going to make a gala apple tree, right? So it's supposed to be going off the seed, which the seed comes from the father. But so patriarchy is a system of society or government in which the father or eldest male is head of the family and descent is traced through the male line, right? The next definition is social organization marked by the supremacy of the father in the clan or family, the legal dependence of wives and children, and the reckoning of descent and inheritance in the male line. So it's basically saying the same thing, but taking it a little bit farther, right? It says social organization, the way you organize yourself socially, is marked by the supremacy of the father in the clan or family. So whether it be in a tribe or a group of people or in the family and a household, the father has the supremacy in the household or clan or tribe, meaning they have the ultimate authority out of everyone that's present in that clan or family. It also says the father has the legal dependence of wives and children, right? Meaning that they are legally dependent, or the wives and children are legally dependent on the father, right? So when you think about this and compare it to today's modern day society is actually a matriarchy. And the reason we know this, because one of the definitions of patriarchy is actually that the father has the legal dependence of wives and children, meaning that they are his responsibility. They basically belong to him. We're going to go over some verses that show this also, but one of them is in Sirach, where it says, "He that getteth a wife beginneth a possession, a help like unto himself, and a pillar of rest." So a wife is actually supposed to be a possession to her husband. Now, modern day feminist women would take that and say, well, I'm not a possession, I'm not a thing, so on and so forth. But in the days of old, you have to understand that biblical men knew how to possess their wives in the correct manner and knew how to love them and how to protect them in the correct way. So this was actually a good thing, right? But going back to matriarchy, right? So this is a statistic of single parent families in the United States. It says 84.1% of children who are a part of a single parent home live with their mother only. 84.1%. And only 15.9% of children in a single parent home live with the father, right? So you got 84% with the mother and about 16%, which says 15.9%, but roughly 16% live with the father only. And I know in Texas that it's even lower than this. It's 90 something percent of mothers, right? This is just in general in the whole United States. But I know that it's a higher number in Texas where I live because when I got custody of my two oldest daughters, afterwards when their mother left the uh the little room, it wasn't a courtroom, but we were in the judge's office, and he was like, "I need you to stay afterwards," right? And I thought I was in trouble or something. And long story short, afterwards he was like, "I just want to shake your hand and tell you good job, because it's around 5% of men that actually get custody of their children as a single father, right? But according to patriarchy, the father is actually supposed to have the legal right to his children, right? And this is why, if you go back maybe a month or two back, and I did a live on single mothers and marrying, because a lot of brothers, I mean, let's be honest, Israelite women, so-called Hispanic, Black, Native women, and others that are scattered to the four corners of the earth, a lot of them are single mothers, right? So a lot of questions that I've gotten in the past are from brothers like, "Hey, I don't even know if I can marry her as a single mother and she has children, etc." And that's one thing that I brought out that a lot of people have a problem with, is that in reality, a man has the right to his children. So if you're a sister in the truth and the man says, "Hey, I want to take care of my children, I want them to live with me," according to the word, those children actually belong to him in a patriarchy system, right? And that's why you see in Hebrews, the seventh chapter, Hebrews 7:4, I believe, it says Abraham was a patriarch. In Acts 2:29, it says David was a patriarch, and so on and so forth, right? But let's go ahead and go to First Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 3. First Corinthians 11 and 3. "But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, Hamashiach, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ, Hamashiach, is the Most High Yahweh." Right? So this is the patriarchy when it comes to the spiritual realm, so to speak. Right? You have the Most High Yahweh, the creator of all things, our creator. He's at the top. And even though I've been seeing, some people have sent me, there are certain sisters that are teaching. Yes, I said sisters teaching. That already sounds off, right? That our creator, or who they will call God or the Most High, is actually a female, right? But then you can go to many scriptures. Exodus 15 and 3, Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name, and other scriptures as well. He is a man in characteristic. And then it says his son is the head of the man. So even as a man, even if you're the head of a household, you have to know that the word is your head, right? Because Hamashiach, our Messiah, was the word in the flesh. Then the head of the woman is the man. So when you look at this system in general, like I said, it's a matriarchy system. and it wants women to be above the man, because if you cut off the head, then so falls the body. Right? If you cut off the head, so falls the body. If you cut off our head, you cut off the word, or you cut off the Most High, as a man, we are going to fall as well. Spiritually, physically, mentally, all of the above. Right? To Brother Ivan, Shabbat Shalom, Ak. Yahweh Shem, Yahweh Shai Barakatah. Hope all is well with you, Ak. So if you cut off the head, so falls the body. So in this system, this is why there's 84% of women, or 84% of single children that live with their mother, because that's the way the system is set up. The system is not set up for the man to be the ruler of the household. The system is set up for the woman to rule the house, right? As a matter of fact, I'm going to go to Lamentations chapter 5. This is verse 1. Remember, O Yahweh, what has come upon us. Consider and behold our reproach. Our reproach is basically shame, right? Our inheritance is turned to strangers, our houses to aliens. We are orphans and fatherless. Our mothers are as widows. Right? So I've done multiple lessons speaking on how this could pertain to the Israelites, so-called Native Americans, and also in the past, this has happened to Israelites many times, right? The first thing, when you conquer a people, the first thing you do is kill all the males, all the men, because those are the people that are going to fight back, because those are the people that are raising their households, or were raising their households back in the day, right? If you just leave the children and you leave the mothers, then maybe some of them will try to fight back, but it's way easier for you to gain control over people, right? So this is why a matriarchy is so important, when it comes to the powers that be and just Satan in general taking control of the households, right? And it ruins the family unit. So this is Isaiah 3 and 12. It says, as for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err and destroy the way of thy paths. Right? So it's a lot going on in this verse. I'm gonna read it again. Isaiah 3 and 12. It says, as for my people, Israelites, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. So one thing that happens with a lot of men, Israelite men, but just men in general, right? A lot of men date, court, or marry a woman who already has a child or already has children. Okay, and I've seen this with brothers in the truth, and I've seen this with men in the world. Okay, the woman is the head of the household, but not only that, the children also oppress the man, because the mom, Salaki, if y'all can hear my sheep, I got the windows open because we got real good weather down here right now. So the women not only rule over the man, right, but they also do not allow the man that they're with to punish or to correct or to chastise their children the way that they're supposed to as the head of the house. And therefore, the children also oppress them and, in a sense, rule over them, because the woman will not allow the man to correct and chastise the child, and the child knows this. And children are very smart, okay? A lot of people don't give children the credit that's due to them, in the sense of they pick up on habits and they pick up on the actions of their parents. That's why yesterday when I made the post about this, about patriarchy, purpose, family, I said that you have to lead by example, right? So you can tell a child anything that you want, but children will not listen to do as I say, not as I do, right? That's how a lot of adults try to raise their children. They try to raise their children, do as I say. I'm telling you, do this. not as I do, because I'm going to do something that I'm telling you not to do, right? And children pick up on that, and they're going to do as you do instead, because you do lead by example, because you do show them and you teach them more by example than you do by just speaking, right? You could read them the Bible every day, but if you're not living according to it, they're going to see that a lot more than what you're showing them from the Bible, right? So it says, as for my people, children are their oppressors and women rule over them. I know people, I know of a brother, multiple people, but I could think of one right now specifically that was following the truth, and eventually the woman he was with didn't want to follow the truth anymore, and she started letting her children do whatever they wanted to, basically, like against the scriptures, and he ended up just going along with it, right? Oh, let's celebrate Christmas for the children, right? Let's celebrate Thanksgiving for the children. In this way, you're being spiritually oppressed. So it says, children are their oppressors, right? It says, "O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths." So, as a man, especially, knowing that the Bible is about patriarchy, if you allow a woman to rule over you in any way, shape, or form, or if you allow a child to rule over you or oppress you in any way, it's going to cause you to error. It's going to cause you to go off the path. It's going to destroy your path, right? Let's go to chapter 9. This is Isaiah 9:16. It says, "For the leaders of this people cause them to err, and they that are led of them are destroyed." So, as a man, especially, this is more of a lesson for men, patriarchy, but also for women in the sense that you have to fall under patriarchy, right? Because that's what you're supposed to do as a woman of the Most High, which we'll get into in just a minute as well, right? So let's go to Sirach 25:22. Um, 3, 2, 1, A, B, C, D. What if the father is a wicked Israelite? Should the mother, whom strives for righteousness, still give the child over to this type of man, and the mother not be in the child's life? So here's the thing: that the if you plant, let's say you like I said earlier, a gala apple in Mexico, it's not a Mexican gala apple, right? If you plant a gala apple in California, it's not a Californian gala apple. Okay, no matter where you put that apple, it still comes from the same seed line, right? It's still it's still from the lineage of a gala apple, right? So if the mother is striving for righteousness and the man still wants that child, does the child still? I'm gonna ask you. It's like Yahushai asked, when the Pharisees asked Yahushai, by whom's authority do you do these miracles? And he said, I'll answer that if you can answer this. So answer me this: It does that child is the child still of that man's lineage, and does the child still belong to him? That's my question to you, and I'll come back to that. Right, Sister Lahama, Shabbat Shalom. Hope all is well with you. Right, so this is Sirach 25:22, and I actually got this question asked a couple times as well this past weekend, right? This last Sunday, the first day of the week. This Sirach 25:22, it says, "A woman, if she maintain her husband, is full of anger, impotency, and much reproach." Okay, so the question that I got asked, and it was written a little bit different because it was actually asked twice. Um, was, what should you do if you have a woman that's always angry? Right? What should you do if you have a woman that's always angry? I was real good friends, and I would even say I had a real close brother that had this issue when he was in the truth. And man, we had so many conversations about this. And in reality, there's two main reasons as to why a woman or your wife would be angry. Okay, the first reason we'll go over is this. It says, a woman, if she maintain her husband, is full of anger, impotency, and much reproach. Okay, being impotent is being shameless. It's wanting modesty, or being bold with contempt of others. Okay, so a woman is going to be angry, obviously, if she has to maintain her husband in any way, shape, or form. If she's paying all the bills, she's going to be angry because that's not her job, right? And in the patriarchy system, which is the system of the Bible, the system the Most High set up, a man is supposed to provide for his household, right? And I'm gonna get that real quick in First Timothy 5:8. First Timothy 5:8, it says, "But if any provide not for his own, and specially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith, and is worse than an infidel." Right? He is worse than an infidel. So if you're not providing for your household, right, of course your woman is going to be angry, which is why it says a woman, if she maintain her husband, is full of anger, impotency, and much reproach. Reproach, again, being shame, contempt, right? One of the definitions is even or to suggest blame for anything. So any little thing, and that was something that was happening with this one brother that I was talking about as well, who sadly is no longer of the faith or trying to follow the word. But that was one thing. He was like, man, any little thing that I say, that I do, she's just gonna go off, right? She's gonna be angry. She's gonna give blame or suggest blame for any little thing. And the reason why is because he wasn't providing what she needed at that time, right? Spiritually, emotionally, and even financially, in a sense, right? So we have to understand as men that a woman is going to be angry when she's not living out her role, when she's living out your role, right? And one of the other questions that I got, which I'm gonna actually answer it with a short video later on, um, is that when women don't have men or a father figure or a husband in their life, their actual, according to science, which for the most part, I mean, a lot of it is BS, but a lot of it, when it comes down to like hormones and things of that nature, I do believe for the most part it's true. You can actually look into it and see that a woman's hormones and a woman's chemical balance will go off balance when she's not around a strong fatherly or husband figure. All right, which is why you see more and more when a woman does not have some sort of patriarchy system where there's a man that is the head of the household, she will start her actual um, chemicals will go off balance to where she will not be as feminine, where she will not be as much of a woman as she's supposed to be, because guess what, she goes into that like survival mode, and she actually has to take on some traits of a man, right? Especially if she has children, because you have to have you as a woman or as a man, more so as a woman though, right? Like a motherly instincts. You want your child to be protected, you want your child to be provided for, and all of these other things. So if you don't have a man that can do that, you're automatically, either knowingly or unknowingly, consciously or subconsciously, right, you are going to start doing that or taking on those traits to make sure that that child is going to be protected, is going to be provided for, right? Which is why it's so important to have a patriarchy system, right? And that's why a lot of sisters, or actually, I was talking with my daughters and my rib about this, right? It's like me and my rib got together about 10 years ago. Okay, she was 18 years old, and she just wanted, since a very young age, she wanted to get married. Okay, she wanted to get married since she was like, I believe, 12, 13 years old. She wanted to have her own family, her own children, her own husband, her own house, get out of her mom's house. Right when she turned 18, and we got together, and she moved out, it was because she wanted that, right? And in Genesis, actually, I'm gonna get it real quick. Genesis 2 and 18, it says, and Yahweh said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helpmeet for him. A woman is actually made for the man. That was the reason she was created. So she was just saying and saying in front of my daughters and telling them, that the way it happened between us was completely different, or the way that it happened for her was completely different than most women nowadays, right? Because most women nowadays want to get out of the house so they can be free and they can experience life and they can do whatever they want, right? That's actually the saying for um Satanists. They say, "Do what thou wilt," right? That's why women or young females want to get out of their house, because they want to do whatever they want to do, right? Whereas my rib was the opposite. She wanted to get married. She wanted to have children. She wanted to guide the house, which is actually what it says in First Timothy. We'll get in a second, right? But just saying that because going back, or like the sister said, Khan, she'll have a very bitter spirit. Most women that are married have a bitter spirit, right? So let me ask y'all this, right? It shows, let me see, it shows there's 7 people on here right now. How many people do you know, in the truth or out of the truth, that you would be happy with a marriage like their marriage? Or how many people have you ever known in your entire life that have a marriage that you would think you would be happy in, right? Not saying to covet their marriage or nothing, but just to see how many marriages, how many examples you've seen of an actual pleasant marriage, right? Because like the sister said, she'll have a very bitter spirit. The majority of women that I've seen in marriages have a bitter spirit. And the reason why they have a bitter spirit is because, like it says one more time, Sirach 25 and 22, a woman, if she maintain her husband, is full of anger, impotency, and reproach. Much reproach, right? Much reproach. So the sister said, in the truth, 3, right? Lahama, in the truth, 3. Kenya Molina, sadly, no more than 2, right? No more than 2. Okay. I don't know if this is a brother or sister. I seen 2 beautiful examples. Okay. So now that's cool. Y'all are blessed to even be able to see that, because most people don't have an example of that. Okay. Now take those numbers. One sister said 3, one sister said 2, one sister said 2. Now, how many bad examples of marriage have you seen in your life? And I guarantee you the number is way higher than 3 or 2. And why is this? Because the majority of the time, it is not run, not the majority of the time, all the time, it is not run in a patriarchy system. It is not run in a patriarchy system. And when I say that, right, when I say that, the sister said 10. I'm sure that way more than that, right? Khan, way higher. All led by women. They're all led by women, right? And like it said in Isaiah 3 and 12, it said, as for my people, women rule over them. They destroy the way of thy paths, right? They destroy the way of thy paths. Too many, right? We've all seen too many. And what it comes back to, again, is Sirach 25 and 22. A woman, if she maintain her husband, is full of anger, impotency, and much reproach. Impudent means shameless. How many women are shameless because they're the head of their relationship, right? They have no shame. They can post all their body on Instagram, Facebook, chaps, Snapchat, Moco Space, whatever they want, and their man is not going to say nothing, even though their body's only supposed to be for their husband. right? They're shameless. They're wanting modesty. And the reason why is because deep down inside, they don't want to play that role out. That's not what they were supposed to do, right? They're supposed to be the helpmeet, not the head of the household, right? So for the brothers, I'm going to go to Sirach chapter 33 and verse 19. This is more for men, but it can also be for even for mothers, because I know there's a lot of single mothers out there as well, right? And as a single mother, what happens with a lot of single mothers is they don't know how to discipline their children, and their children walk all over them. And anytime you give a child too much freedom, too much liberty, it's they're never gonna check themselves and get back in order, right? Going to seek for more and more and more liberty. It's like the saying goes: you give someone an inch, and they'll try to take a mile. That's how children are. And I know because I have 4 children and one on the way. My ribs actually, any day now she's gonna give birth. She's already giving signs of like, that the baby's coming soon. But also, when I taught jujitsu to children, right? It was from 4 years all the way up to, I mean, to adults. But the 4 years to especially about 13, 14 years old, depending on how much maturity the teenagers have, if you let them get away with any little thing, they're going to try and do it again, right? And then they're going to try and get a little bit more out of you, and then a little bit more and a little bit more, and they're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until you're going to have to discipline them harshly, right? Which is why it's better to just keep them in order. And any little slip up, especially if you have multiple children or multiple in that setting, if you let one get away with it, I guarantee you someone else is going to try to do it too, right? Khan, the sister said too much coddling, too much coddling. I was telling an elder woman, I guess you could say, an older woman, earlier this week, that as well. Like, you cannot be your child's friend. You have to be your child's parent, right? If you try to be just their friend, they're never gonna see you as an authority figure, right? Tawada, sis, Tawada. Khan, all praise to the Most High. So this is Sirach 33 and 19. It says, give not thy son and wife, thy brother and friend, power over thee while thou livest. So you are not supposed to give anybody power over you for as long as you live. The only one that's supposed to have power over you is Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. It's the Most High and the Word, right? It says, give not thy son or your children, your wife, thy brother and friend power over thee while thou livest, and give not thy goods to another, lest it repent thee, and thou entreat for the same again. Right? So don't give power over yourself, and don't just give your stuff away, your goods, your things that you've worked hard for, lest it repents you, and thou entreat for the same again. That's getting into like what the world calls Indian giving, right? I knew people back in the day that, let's just say, a lot of people in middle school, high school, wanted to be friends with me, and I don't say this in a prideful way, but and they would sometimes people give you things to try and kiss ass, for lack of a better term, and later on they'll want it back, right? Then verse 20 says, as long as thou livest and hast breath in thee, give not thyself over to any. Right? I also knew a brother, which I love that brother, but one time he was talking to a female and he gave her some money, and then he found out she was moving real shady and stuff, and he tried to get it back. Right? It repented him, and he was entreating for the same again. He was trying to get it back, and you're not going to get that back. So it says, as long as you live, as long as you have breath in thee, don't give yourself over to any. Don't give your power to any man. Verse 21, for better it is that thy children should seek to thee than that thou shouldest stand to their courtesy. So children under a patriarchy system, we just read in 1 Corinthians 11:3, the order, right? The order is the most high, our Messiah, the man and the woman, and then the children. It's saying that you should not be standing courtesy to your children. You shouldn't be waiting on your children and trying to do all these little things for them. Because in the end, all you're doing is, like the sister said, too much coddling or too much spoiling, right? And when something spoils, what happens? It gets rotten. That's where that term comes from. That saying comes from. Oh man, they were spoiled rotten. When food goes rotten, can you bring it back to being fresh and healthy and so you can eat of it? No, you can't. Right? So you can't spoil your children, is what this is saying. It's saying, verse 21, for better it is that thy children should seek to thee than that thou shouldest stand to their courtesy. A lot of times people baby their children for things that there's no way they should be babying them for. Right. And this, it's like I was telling one of my daughters the other day. She said that she was bored. Right. And then I was telling her, back, let's say 2, 3, 4, 500 years ago, right? As far as I know, from my father's side, they were native to this area, to this land, right? So I was telling her, do you think they were bored 500 years ago, 6, 700, 1,000 years ago? They weren't bored because they were doing things physically, right? They were hunting, they were fishing, they were growing food, they were outside doing things. Nowadays, children get so bored, quote unquote bored, because they're lazy. That's the only reason why they're so bored, right? And it's like in Sirach. I'm gonna get it real quick. In Sirach, it says that idleness teaches much evil, right? This is Sirach 33:27. It says, "Send him to labor, that he be not idle, for idleness teacheth much evil." Right. So years and years ago, me and my daughters and my rib had watched. My two older daughters had watched The Walking Dead, and there was this one chick named I think it's Beth. She was the daughter of one of the older men there, and she was like, "Oh, we all have jobs to do." Right. So I always tell them like, "Hey, we all have jobs to do." A lot of times, people or children are getting babied for being bored, are getting babied for not wanting to do their chores, not wanting to do things that in reality are just day to day things that they should be doing. Right. And most children, most parents, especially single mothers, allow their children to do anything, to do anything that they want. They can watch TV all day if they want to. They can, a lot of single mothers, especially, allow their children to be raised by TV, by the phone, by video games, by a tablet, or by their grandparents, right? And that's why it's so important to have a father figure in the house as well. Um, so this is verse 22, and then I'm gonna jump to a different topic. In all thy works, keep to thyself the preeminence. The preeminence is basically like keeping your power, your authority, especially men. Leave not a stain in thine honor. So it says, do not give your strength to your son, your wife, your brother, your friends, anybody. Keep the preeminence. The man is supposed to keep his power, his authority, or else it's going to leave a stain in your honor, right? It's going to leave a stain in your honor, your respect. If you're over here standing to your children's courtesy, they're not going to respect you as much. They're going to start seeing you as a friend instead of as their parent, as their authoritative figure in their life, right? The sister Lahama says, spare the rod, spoil the child. That's exactly the opposite of what the Bible says to do, but that's what the majority of people, even those that say they're in the faith, Okay, that's the bad part. That's the worst part. I know people that say they're in the faith, but they spare the rod way too much, and they spoil the child way too much, or they just don't want to deal with the child, right? I can't deal with this child no more. I've been punishing them. They don't listen. Yeah, you got to stay consistent. As soon as they see it, it's like, this is why, again, I always do lessons and I compare them to MMA, right? In MMA, one of my coaches would always say, like, you just got to find the chink in their armor. Somebody could be real fast, real good boxing, kickboxing, whatever, but okay, maybe their ground game sucks. Just take them down and hold them there. Beat them up on the ground, right? Or they may have real good um jujitsu. They can tap you out super easily. Okay, well then just don't go to the floor with them. That's the chink in their armor, right? That's a lot of parents have a chink in their armor in the sense that they cannot be consistent, or they cannot rule their spirit long enough to keep being consistent with their children, right? And that's a big problem. So this is Hebrews 12, and I'm gonna start on verse 5. This is actually the next live I'm gonna do. Well, me and the brother, y'all, most high willing, are gonna do. It's gonna be on chastening, the chastening of Yahweh, of the Most High, right? This Hebrews 12 and 5, it says, "And ye have forgotten the exhortation which speaketh unto you as unto children. My son, despise not the chastening of Yahweh, nor faint when thou art rebuked of him." Verse 6, "For whom Yahweh loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. If ye endure chastening, Yahweh dealeth with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not? But if ye be without chastisement, whereof all are partakers, then ye are bastards and not sons." Okay, so to sum this up, this is saying the Most High, if He is chastising you, if He's correcting you, right, if He's rebuking you, that's because He's dealing with you like if you are one of His sons. It says, "For what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not? But if ye be without chastisement," but if you're not getting corrected, "then ye are bastards and not sons." So a lot of people may have parents, may have a parent, whether it be a mother or father, but this says if you're not being chastised, if you're not being corrected, then you're like a bastard. It's like if you don't even have a father, right? You are not like a son, you're not like a daughter, because those who the Father loves, He chastens. So if you love your children, you have to be chastening and correcting them. And that goes, the water for this one says, this Proverbs 13 and 24. "He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes." If you love your children, to put it plain and simple, right? If you love your children, you're going to correct them. You're going to correct them every time they need to get corrected. But if you don't, if you aren't correcting, if you're not chastising or chastening, you're not rebuking your children, then you hate your children. Plain and simple. Right? And this is what a lot of parents don't understand. And something I always say, especially for single mothers, okay, it is understandable when a woman isn't chastening and correcting and keeping her child or children in order, because in reality, in a patriarchy system, the man is the head of the house, and if you don't have a head, then nobody's really going to follow the next one in line, so to speak, the woman, right? To in a sense they will, but not as much as if there was an authoritative figure, not as much as if there was a father in the house, because he's the main disciplinarian, right? So it's understandable when a woman, that single mother, is not correcting her children or chastening them enough or in the right manner. But at the same time, it's unacceptable, right? It some a lot of things. in life are like that. They're understandable because of circumstances, but they're unacceptable because of the word of the Most High, right? Oh, what's up, hermano? Shabbat shalom. Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai Barakatah. Hope all is well with you, Ak. Khan, Proverbs 22:6. Let me get that real quick. Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. The majority of children, this is the truth. However you train them up when they're younger, when they get older, that's how they're going to be. They're not departing from it. Right? Now there's little exceptions here and there, like me, for example. I was raised Catholic till I was 17 and moved out of the house. I'm no longer a part of any of those types of religions. Right? But we have to look at the whole. It's like I gave the example the other day to one of my daughters. We're not looking at the Michael Jordan or the Kobe Bryant or the LeBron James, right? We're looking at all basketball players in general, right? We're looking at the majority. The majority of children, however you're training them up right now, if you got a child between, I'd say about 2 all the way up to 16, 17, how you're raising them is how they are most likely going to be when they get older. If you're allowing them to get away with it, they're going to continue to think they can get away with it. And you know what? I'm going to go back to these statistics real quick. I was looking at them right before the live, right? Okay, so this says single mother home statistics. All right, single mother home statistics. Because remember, at the beginning of the live, for those of y'all who weren't on here, it says that in the United States, 84.1% of children in a single parent home are with the mother. 84%, right? And like I said, in Texas, it's more than 90% are with the mother. So it says the strongest predicator of whether a person will end up in prison is that they were raised by a single parent, mainly single mother homes, right? Father absence and youth incarceration is a paper presented at the annual meeting of the American Sociological Association. 70% of inmates in state juvenile detention centers were raised by single mothers. So that means 70% of people in juvie were raised by single mothers. That's not a coincidence, right? It's because there's no disciplinarian in the house. It's because they don't have a father figure. They don't have someone to keep them in line, right? It says 72% of juvenile murderers come from single mother homes. 60% of rapists come from single mother homes, right? And it goes on and on and on and on. It keeps going. 86% of American teen births out of wedlock come from single mother homes, meaning 86% of females. Just think about this, how crazy this number is. 86%, well, it says American, right? 86% of American teen births that are out of wedlock and from single mother homes. 70% of dropouts, single mother homes. So 7 out of 10. 70% of teen suicides come from single mother homes. 70% of runaways, single mother homes. And like I said, it just goes on and on. There's so many statistics that point to single mother homes not being able to effectively raise their children without the father figure. Why? Again, because it comes back to the Bible. The Bible is based on a patriarchy system, right? A patriarchy system. I'm gonna read three more statistics real quick, and we'll get back to it. Right? It says 71% of all adolescent substance abusers, meaning people that get into drugs, weed, alcohol, whatever the case may be, 71% of them come from single mother homes. It says 80% of all prison inmates in the United States, that means 8 out of 10, were from fatherless homes. 8 out of 10 of them. Think about that for a second. 8 out of 10 people in prison came from a fatherless home. So imagine if you would have had father figures in every one of these houses. That means 80% of these people, I mean, some of them may have still gone off, right? We don't know the situation, but there's no coincidence that 80% of all prison inmates come from a fatherless home, right? And the last one I'll read, even though there's dozens of statistics, it says 90% of all homeless and runaway children came from single mother homes. 90%. When you run away from something, it's because there's an issue there, right? There's something missing. And it's like me and the brother y'all had said in the last live, right? If you don't know your father, like me, I was raised without my father in the house. That brother y'all was raised without his father in his house, his biological father. You have a piece of you that is just missing, right? You really do. It's just like our relationship with the Most High. Everybody coming into the truth, it's because the Most High pulled you towards the truth, right? There was a piece that was missing of you spiritually, and because that you felt that was missing, you were led to this truth. You were led to the Heavenly Father, right? So when it says 90% of homeless and runaway children came from single mother homes, I can definitely understand that because they didn't have a father figure. There was something missing, and they ran away from that household because they knew it wasn't fulfilling them, right? So let me go back up. I see there's a few comments. Stasha Dior Brooks, Khan, a lot of us weren't raised with the laws, statutes, and commandments, but we have the chance to raise our children in the righteous way. Khan, that's think about how much of a blessing it is, right? Because the majority of us, I only know, let's see, one, two, off the top of my head, I could think of two sisters that I know were raised in the truth, and I could think of two brothers that like their parents raised them, even learning Hebrew and things of that nature. And one of them's not even trying to follow the word no more, right? But one of the brothers. But I could think of two separate brothers and two separate sisters that they were raised in it. And I've come across hundreds and hundreds of brothers and sisters over the about 6 years since I came into the faith, right? So think about how blessed we are to have the opportunity, like the sister said, or the chance to raise our children the right way. That is such a blessing in itself, right? That's like my younger son Noah and my youngest daughter at this moment, Keziah, right? Neither one of them have ever tasted pork. They've never eaten bacon. They've never eaten a hot dog that's made out of pork. They've never eaten pork chops, right? Me and my rib have talked about that many times. Like, man, that's so crazy to be able to say because when we were younger, what were we eating? Pepperoni pizza all the time. We're eating bacon and egg tacos. We're eating. Me and my rib were joking about it like a while back. How both of our favorite thing in high school to eat was the little breakfast pizzas, and they had sausage on them. Right? It was nothing but, and that's just talking about one thing, right? They know about the Sabbath. My son could tell you, well, we have to keep the Sabbath. We can't. We don't work on Sabbath. We don't work out on Sabbath. We don't buy or sell on Sabbath, right? We study. He could tell anybody that, right? He could break it down for them. He knows more verses than the majority of brothers and sisters that I've met in the truth. And he's only 5 years old, right? So it's a huge blessing to be able to raise our children in the truth, right? And that brings me to this real quick. This is Third John chapter 1 and verse 4. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth. Right? So the Most High has no greater joy than to hear that we're walking in truth. And as a parent, that should be our biggest joy too. I know when my son or my daughters, they'll say something. We'll be studying sometimes, and I'll ask, especially in my family, right? We got a big table and we sit around, and sometimes I'll ask questions, and I'm asking to everybody in general. And sometimes my son Noah, he'll give the perfect answer, and we're all just like, dang, we're all blown away by it and smiling and happy that he has more knowledge than a lot of people that I've met that are far older than him, right? So, like the sister said, if you have children and you know of the truth, that chance, that opportunity, that can be either a blessing or it can be a curse, right? Because if you know what you're supposed to do and you don't do it, you're going to be punished even worse for it, right? And I'm going to get that in Luke real quick. So, this is the book of Luke, chapter 12 and verse 47. It says, and that servant which knew his Lord's will and prepared not himself, neither did according to his will, shall be beaten with many stripes. So when you know what you're supposed to do, but you don't do it, you know, as a parent, you know, as a mother or as a father, you are supposed to be raising up your children in the law, statutes, commandments, and precepts, right? You're supposed to be raising them the righteous way, like the sister said. But if you don't do it, it says, you shall be beaten with many stripes. You're going to get more curses. You're going to get more punishments. And this is something I was talking to a sister about very recently. Your punishments don't have to be all physical, all financial, right? A lot of people, it's mental, it's emotional. It's like when the Most High sent the Spirit to trouble Saul. He was still the king, right? He was still the king. He had all these. He had castle. He had all these people waiting on him, but his spirit was so bad. He sent an evil spirit to trouble Saul, right? So that can be your punishment as well. Verse 48. But he that knew not and did commit things worthy of stripes shall be beaten with few stripes. So if you didn't know, but you didn't do the right thing, you're still going to be punished, but it's not going to be as bad because you didn't know. For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall much be required. And to whom men have committed much, of him they will ask the more. Right? So because you know you're supposed to raise them up the right way, because you know that you cannot do it as a single mother or even as a single father, then you have to fall in line with doing everything in your power to raise them the right way, right? Savage Trader, shalom, shalom, Ak. The brother Robert said, I was in and out of juvenile hall from 12 to 18, did prison time from 20 to 30 years old straight, grew up in a single mother home. I can say having a father figure would have made a difference. Khan, the water for your testimony, Ak. And it's crazy because the majority, if not at least half my family, especially on my mom's side, on my dad's side as well, but not as much as on my mom's side, this is their story, right? Always in trouble, always in and out of jail, right? On my mom's side, I got one uncle that was shot in front of my grandma's house, got shot and killed by a cartel hitman. And my other uncle, he joined the Air Force. He went overseas to Germany. He got hit by a bus riding a scooter and was paralyzed for the rest of his life, then died. My other uncle, the only one that's alive on my mom's side of the family, um, he was a pimp at first, And when I was younger, and he had a room just full of guns, like completely full of guns and money everywhere, right? He was a pimp and he would sell drugs. Now he's a crackhead, he has no teeth, right? And in and out of jail, in and out of jail, all of them. My cousins, same thing. All praise to the Most High. I've only been to jail a couple times, and it was never longer than a few days. The Most High really looked out for me because I've done things where I would have been in jail for life in my past life, right? Before I was baptized. But I know so many brothers, so-called black or Hispanic, Native American brothers, that this is their story. In and out of juvie, in and out of jail all the time, because we were under the curses, but also because one of the curses is you grew up in a single mother home, right? And I'm gonna get that real quick in Deuteronomy 28. That is one of the curses that is upon the Israelites. This is Deuteronomy. Actually, I'm gonna read 28 and 46 first, right? Because 28 and 46 tells you, and I've done a couple lessons on this that are on my YouTube channel about telling you who Israel is, right? This is Deuteronomy 28 and 46. It says, "And they shall be upon thee." What will be upon thee? The curses. "And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever." Right? So no matter what, the Israelites are going to have these curses upon not only you, but upon your seed, upon your children, right? Because again, going off of patriarchy, when we read the definition, it says that the lineage comes from the father. So if your father's an Israelite and he was cursed, and then then that means you're an Israelite, and if you're not following the law, statutes, and commandments, you as well will be cursed, right? So this is I'm gonna jump down to verse 54. It says, "So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and towards the remnant of his children, which he shall leave." Right? So there's some brothers out there that teach, and I used to be affiliated with one of the camps. Um, I won't even say their name, but I'm sure many of y'all, if you've been in the Israelite community for any amount of time, you've heard of this camp. There's one camp in particular, and others as well, that teach if a woman has children and she's in the truth, you cannot get with her. She is completely she's defiled, and she's all these other things, right? My belief is different from that. I believe she can get baptized, remission of sins, all these other things. But the point being, this is one of the curses. The man will leave the remnant, or the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. He's going to leave the children. And that's what happened to this brother, Robert. That's what happened to me. That's what happened to my brother, y'all, who lives on my land. That's what happened to, I could go off and tell you so many people, my rib, uh, anybody that probably 80, 75, 80% of people that I've met in the truth, single parent home. And that's why all of these issues arise. And that's why I'm doing this lesson, because patriarchy cannot be lived out correctly without a father in the home. And that's why it's very important, not even important, it's imperative that there is a father figure in a child's life, because if not, you are setting up your child for failure, right? And I remember there was a sister that asked one of those questions that I ask on Instagram, and she said, "Well, how am I supposed to find something like how am I supposed to find uh, a father to my children or a husband if I'm working all the time?" Right? And actually, I'm gonna ask y'all that. What do y'all think about that question? I'm gonna go through the comments. What do y'all think about that question? The question is, how am I supposed to find a husband or a father to my child if I'm working all the time and I'm busy? Right? I'm gonna go down the comments if anyone wants to answer that. Lahama, Khan, or moms that run the marriage. So a mom that runs the marriage is just as detrimental as a father not being there, because like it says in Ezekiel 16:44, as is the mother, so is the daughter. So when women or young girls see a their mom walking all over a dude, they're going to end up with a dude that they can walk all over. Whether it's conscious, whether they're conscious of it or subconsciously, they're going to see, okay, my mom's walking all over this dude she's with, right? She's the head of the household. Now I'm going to get someone just like that. Instead of them seeing a strong man, a man figure as a husband to their mom, they're going to see someone who's more like a little boy. And that's what they're going to go for. And that's what they're going to end up with the majority of the time, because train up a child in the way they should go. And when they're older, they're not going to depart from it. Because as is the mother, so is the daughter, Ezekiel 16:44. Right? So moms that run the marriage are just as detrimental to their children as an absent father. Right? The brother Robert said, I take full responsibility for my decisions, but I would agree that having a father would have been a huge difference. Khan, same here, Rock. Same here. The times that I ended up in jail. I ended up, I ended up to where I joined the Army Reserves, right? And I ended up getting kicked out. I done some stupid shit in my life. I got arrested in high school multiple times. After like I the same. I take responsibility for my decisions, but having a father figure in my life would have made a big difference. Single mothers are a part of the curses. Khan, we just read that. Khan, same. Not saying this is my situation, but what if the father is in the truth and still doesn't want to be the father he should? So at that point, that's on him, right? If there's a sister like that, and I know of one case that was like that. To be honest, I'm not sure if that's still the case, but I've known of that being the case, as where the man is so called in the truth, but he doesn't want to take care of his seed. Right? At that point, it's not on the mother, it's on the father. Right? It's just like when somebody does you wrong, right? When somebody sins against you. Let's say somebody steals from me or something, right? They steal from me, I find out, I call them out on it, and they're not sorry about it. So that's on them. And they're like, you know what? I'm not going to give it back, or I'm not whatever. So I cut them off. So that's completely on them. But now it could be on me if I hold a grudge against them, right? I just got to, oh, you know what? I see it. And this has happened to me before. I'll lend people an amount of money, $100, right? Or $500, and they don't pay me back. And I'm like, all right, you're not going to pay me back. I'm not going to hold a grudge. But the way I see it is, now I never have to lend you money again. Now it was $100 to get you out of my life, in the sense of, I never have to help you again, because I'm gonna be, if you ask me again, I'm gonna say, well, you didn't even pay me back that, right? So it's the same with this. The father, if he doesn't want to be the father he should be, that's on him. But it can be on you as well, in the sense of the Most High holding it against you if you're holding a grudge against the father. And again, I'm not saying that it's you, because you said not saying it's your situation, but as a mother, I would say the best thing to do is to seek out a father figure that is willing, but not only willing, right, is able to play that role or live out that role for that child, right? Because there's a lot of men that are willing to do it, but they are not able to do it, whether it be spiritually or emotionally or mentally or even financially, to be real, right? I've come across a lot of brothers that, like, okay, well, yeah, I'll take in this woman and her children, or this woman and her child, right? I know one brother, he was trying to take in a woman who had multiple children, and it's like, all right, brother, do you understand what you're doing though? By taking in a woman, if you take in one woman, that's already, you got to provide her shelter, you got to provide her clothing, food, and duty of marriage. But if she has children too, you got to take into account it's a lot more time. You got to be teaching the children, chastening them. You got to be paying for all their stuff as well, right? So at that point in time, I would say, um, that's what the mother should do, though. Not hold a grudge and move on to the best of your ability. And actually, I'm gonna get this Sirach, chapter 4, and I believe 10. Chapter 4 and verse 10. Be as a father unto the fatherless, and instead of a husband unto their mother, so that thou be as the son of the Most High, and he shall love thee more than thy mother doeth. So it even says, like it says here in Sirach 4 and 10, be as a father to the fatherless, as a brother. And I'm gonna make a short video. Most high willing, I'll do it tomorrow, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. Because this was another question that was asked multiple times, as far as single mothers, right? And I won't get too much into it because, like I said, I'm gonna do a video on it short, maybe 5 to 10, 15 minutes. But it says, "Be as a father unto the fatherless." It is a good thing for a man, if he can, to be a father to a child that is fatherless. Then it says, and instead of a husband to their mother. So if she doesn't have a husband, you're in his stead. In other words, you're taking his place, right? So shalt thou be as the son of the Most High, and he shall love thee more than thy mother doeth. So it's saying the Most High is going to see you as a son. He's going to love you more than your own mom does, if you're willing to be a father to the fatherless and a husband to a mother that doesn't have a husband, right? But that's, again, if you're able to do it spiritually, mentally, emotionally, financially. Because a lot of men, especially that haven't raised their own children, I've seen to where they try to raise other people's children and it doesn't work out, either because the mom doesn't allow them to raise them in the right manner, or because they just don't know how to do it, right? So let me see. That's Yapa'ak. What an example to set. All praises, all praises. Khan, the sister said it too. All praises. He could be one of the elect. Khan, most high willing. Most high willing. Um, okay, so the sister said, keep the commandments and let the Most High handle it. So I'm assuming that's going to answering the question, right? Answering the question that the sister had asked. So I'm gonna get Matthew 7:7 real quick, right? So basically, let's put it this way: everybody puts their time, their time, their energy, their effort, their mind, their heart to whatever they prioritize to put it to, unless unless one of Satan's devices, which is any type of distraction, is the primary source of focus in your life. Meaning, I know people that claim to be in the truth, yet, whether it be a man, whether it be a woman, the majority of their time is just spent being distracted, whether it be watching TV, Netflix, Hulu, all these other things, whether it be on social media, just scrolling and looking at other people's lives and profiles and all this type of stuff, or whether it be being covetous, like the last live we did, me and the brother y'all did, being covetous and just looking through um, Amazon and all these other internet based places where you can purchase things, right? Because you'd be surprised if you watch that covetous live, some of the examples that we're giving, a lot of people are distracted, right? So the question was that the sister had answered before was how am I? It was basically how am I supposed to find a husband and a father for my child, right? So keep the commandments and let the Most High handle it. That is, I would definitely say keep the commandments, most definitely, right? But Yahushua, this is red letter, right? This is Matthew chapter 7 and verse 7. It says, "Ask and it shall be given you; seek and ye shall find; knock and it shall be opened unto you." Right. So the first one it says is to ask. Obviously, when we did I did a live about praying, right? And one of the main things that, or the main points I was making when it comes to praying, if you want your prayers to be answered, what do you have to do? It's what the sister said here. You got to be keeping the commandments. If the Most High asked you to do certain things and you're not doing them, you're not keeping Sabbath, right? You're not being set apart. You're not putting away abominable foods and habits and sins. Then why would He answer your prayers when He asked you to do something and you're not doing it, right? So definitely keep the commandments. And when you say let the Most High handle it, He will handle it for you. But what you have to do in order for Him to handle it for you is this. And again, this is red letter, right? This is our Messiah speaking. Matthew 7:7. Ask and it shall be given you. You got to ask for it, first of all. And like it says in James, the first chapter, when you ask, have faith in it, not wavering, right? Not being double minded. Oh, I don't think I'm going to get it. Seek and ye shall find. But then you got to seek in order to find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you, right? In other words, you got to seek for something that you want. If I want a job, I'm not just going to pray to the Most High and a job is just going to, someone's going to send me a letter or an email or a text. Hey, we don't know who you are, but here's a job, right? You got to seek it out in order to find it. And then it says, knock and it shall be opened unto you. So again, using the same example, if I find a job, I seek one and I find one, and I'm like, man, that's some pretty good pay. Man, that works with my schedule. Man, I wouldn't have to work on Sabbath. Then I have to knock so it can be opened unto me. In other words, I got to apply for it. Hey, look, I have this experience in this area. I feel like I would be a good fit in this job, and then go from there. And at that point, then yes, the Most High will handle it for you. If He wants you to have it, you're gonna have it. If He doesn't, then you're not. Right? It's the same thing when it comes to any aspect of life. But I was talking to a brother about he lives in a very big city in California. And I gave him the exact same advice. You gotta ask the Most High. You gotta seek another area where you can have a good means of income, and you can also find a property outside of the cities, right? And then you gotta knock, you gotta go for it. It's the same answer when it comes to anything in life, right? Whether it be finding a head as a woman, whether it be finding a father for your child, whether it be finding a job, whether it be whatever the case may be. You got to ask, be following the commandments so you're worthy of receiving it. You got to seek, and then you got to knock, right? So the sister said, Khan, I see it in my family. But all of us, whether you're in the truth, you're striving to follow the truth, and your family is too, or they're not, you're going to see all of these things in the family. You're going to see fatherless homes. You're going to see matriarchy, the woman running the household. You're going to see all of these things because they are curses upon our people, right? Let me go back up. Khan, a father for the fatherless. And remember, it said the Most High loves you for doing this because, to be perfectly honest, there's not very many men that can successfully do that. There's not very many men who can be a father to the fatherless, right? There may be some, and that's why another thing I'm gonna talk about in the next video that I'm gonna do because of the question. Y'all will see what I'm talking about exactly later on. Um, but being a father to the fatherless, right? Some, not some, many men will always seek out a single mother as an easy target, because a woman that doesn't have a child is a lot more likely to be having all these other men coming at her, so to speak, right? And I'm talking more so in the world, but it's also in the truth too, because I've seen a couple of sisters that have been, for lack of a better term, used and then tossed to the side by men that claim to be in the truth, right? So they see them more as an easy target. They may act like they want to be a father to the fatherless. They may act like they want to be a husband, but in the end, they're gonna use the single mother, and then they're gonna bounce. They're gonna dip, whatever you want to say, and they're not going to be that husband. They're not going to be the father. I've even seen so-called men in the truth that impregnate a woman and then just leave and have no responsibility, act like they have no responsibility or no authority, nothing having to do with the child or the woman, right? So definitely you can't be hasty to credit, of course. And that's one of the biggest problems is a lot of people are too hasty to credit. And even like earlier when I asked how many marriages do you know that you would like that type of marriage or that type of relationship, right? And I know one of the sisters said three, a couple people said two, but guess what? You aren't there on the day-to-day basis. So you don't even know if that relationship or that marriage is actually as good as it seems on surface level, right? It's like there's a Most Def song where he says synthesized surface conceals the interior. Synthesized surface conceals the interior. So a lot of people could put on like a front, whether it be for their marriage or whether it be for how they're moving and acting, but then deep down inside, that's not even how the marriage is going, right? Or that's not even how they are, truly. Um, Proverbs 18:22. Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtaineth favor of Yahweh. A, the man is doing the searching, and B, the woman needs to walk as a righteous wife. So I'll tell you this, right? From this is just my perspective or my understanding on this situation. When you look at David, for example, was he out seeking for a wife? When you look at other men of the Bible that had purpose and that had, especially in the times we're living in, right? I'll speak personally. Okay, there are certain things that I am personally doing in order to prepare my family, my household, my land, myself, in order to be in a more prudent and secure position for all these things that are starting to take place, right? Really haven't spoken on it much in the past few months, but the dollar's collapsing, okay? Most likely by the end of the summertime, the dollar will be completely collapsed, right? If you look at anybody who's into finance, who's into foreign exchange, and I know because I used to be into the forex and stuff like that. Um, you look at the realty market, it is crashing. You look at the used car uh, market, it is crashing. Everything, the system in the United States is crashing. Okay, saying all that to say this: a man that is being prudent and is preparing his house for the things to come is not going to be out chasing women, right? Nowhere in the Bible does it say for a man to chase a woman. So now this the I don't know if are you a brother or a sister? 3, 2, 1 ABCD. Are you a brother or sister? If you don't mind me asking, because you said the man is doing the searching and the woman needs to walk as a righteous wife. I agree the woman needs to walk, but I say in these days that we're living in right now, a man that's being prudent and preparing his house for things to come is not going to be out searching for a woman. That's the opposite of how I believe Not even how I believe, how the Bible says it's to be, right? And this is Isaiah 4:1, every feminist's favorite verse. It says, "And in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach." Okay? If you're reading this in context, if you read Isaiah, the 3rd chapter, which leads right into this, it's talking about the time of Jacob's trouble. It's talking about the wars that are happening, and women are by themselves and they're desolate, sitting upon the ground, desolate and in shame. And in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread, wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name, which means to get married, to take away that reproach. The days that we're coming into, and I believe the days we're in right now, no man is going to be out chasing a woman. That's why if you go to my Instagram, I'm probably following less than a handful of women for sure. And that's because I know the ones that I'm following when they post nothing but truth. No man will chase a woman. A woman, let's put it this way, because I was giving the example of a job a few minutes ago. If I'm a boss, right? If I have my own business, is it more likely for people to come get hired by me, or is it more likely for me to be out looking for specific people? Like I own my own business and I go out and I'm just looking for random. Okay, you would you be a good fit for me? The majority of the time, it's the employees applying for the job, right? Because they see that they would be a good fit, and they see that that would be the right thing for them to do. So it's the same thing in the household. It's the same thing in the patriarch system, right? No man, I guarantee you, all the brothers that I know, right, are not that I affiliate myself with. I'm not chasing after women, right? Um, she can pray and fast and wait for a head. You can't rush marriage. Focus on Yahweh and your walk, and have faith that He'll send a righteous head if you're a righteous woman. I agree with you in a sense, right? You could pray, of course. You could fast, of course. But waiting for something, Yahweh Shai just said, seek and ye shall find, right? I would say waiting is not a good game to be playing, especially because we see the time speeding up. We're January 14th, 2023. I don't know about y'all, but man, 2022 went by like in a flash, right? It came and it was gone just as fast as it came. The time is being sped up, just like it says in Sirach, just like it says in Luke 21, Matthew 24. Yahweh Shai said that the times were gonna be sped up, right? So waiting is never a good idea. Seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened up to you, right? A silent and loving woman is a gift of Yahweh, and there is nothing so much worth as a mind well instructed. Sirach 26:14. A gift does not go looking to give itself. Yahweh gives it. So now let me get so the scriptures never contradict themselves. Is that correct? The scriptures never contradict themselves. And by the way, are you okay, sis? It's a sister. 1 second. I'm gonna pull up. Hey, Ak, Shabbat Shalom. Hope all is well with you as well, Ak. I was just thinking about you earlier today. Most high willing, everything's going good with you. I know you said you're in college now and everything. That's awesome. That's beautiful. So let's get Sirach. Salakia. 1 second. I'm on the computer. It's slowing down. This is Sirach chapter 26 and verse 23. A wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man, but a godly woman is given to him that feareth Yahweh. So going back up to the sister that said a silent and loving woman is a gift of Yahweh. I agree 100%. There is nothing so much worth as a mind well instructed. So when it talks about a mind well instructed, who is to instruct that woman? Right? Who is the one instructing that woman? It's the Most High, yes, because we all know people are going to say, well, the Most High is the one who gives wisdom. Proverbs 2 and 6, completely true, right? But Ezekiel 34 and 31 says, and ye, my flock of my pasture, and ye, my flock of my pasture, are men, and I am Yahweh, saith Yahweh power, right? So as a man, when you are moving in the right spirits, a woman is going to be gifted to you from the Most High, correct? So the sister said a gift does not go looking to give itself, right? On the other hand, I would say actually that as a woman, when you're in the right spirit, like it says in Sirach 13 and 16, it says every beast cleaves to its like, right? In Genesis 3 and 16, it says that a woman's it says, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. So a woman's desire, because she was created for a man, like we read in Genesis 2 and 18. Okay. She was made for the man, said it's not good that the man should be alone. I will make a helpmeet for him. As a woman, your desire should be to be covered, correct? And as the other sister said, keep the commandments. Where's it at? Lahama said, keep the commandments and let the Most High handle it. Right? A wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man, but a godly woman is given to him that feareth Yahweh. So this comes back to what I was saying about priorities. How much times, how many times has or have you, let's say, as a woman or as a man, talking about women specifically right now. So let's say this. If you're a single woman, how many times have you watched Netflix? Have you binge watched Netflix? How many times have you got on Instagram, on Facebook, on whatever social media platform you use, and you just scrolled through that for hours, right? And don't lie, because the Most High knows your heart. He knows the truth. How many times have you just gone, like on the covetous live that we did, this last live, right? I was talking about a sister who had showed me something, and she had like around 300 items in her cart on some website, right? You know how many hours of scrolling that is? So let's put it this way. If a woman is supposed to learn from a man, right? Is supposed to learn from her husband specifically, like it says in First Corinthians. I'm gonna get that real quick actually. First Corinthians 14 and 35. Right? It says, if she will learn anything, let her learn from her husband at home. Right? The scriptures say multiple times, wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. Isaiah 33 and 6 says that wisdom will keep you stable, right? Wisdom will be the stability of thy times. Who do you get wisdom from? From a man. Again, like it says in Ezekiel, and that's one of my favorite verses, because feminists hate that verse. Ezekiel 34:31. And ye, my flock of my pasture, are men. Because for the most part, 99% of the time, because I already know people are gonna bring up, oh well, the prophetess and this and that. Men are teaching the word. Women are not supposed to be teachers of the word except to other women, right? So the point that I'm bringing this all back to what the sister said. If you can spend, okay, the water for the honesty, sister, Lahama, the water for being honest. She said, Instagram too much. Okay, I know other sisters that have admitted hours and hours on Netflix, Hulu, just on the internet, on Facebook, whatever. The point that I am making is this: if you can spend all that time on Instagram, if you could spend all that time on social media, on the computer, on the phone, on watching TV, video games, shopping, etc., is that profitable to you? Or is that as profitable to you as finding a husband would be? Just going off of what we're talking about, patriarchy, okay? Family, I guarantee you it would be 1,000 times more profitable for you to be seeking purpose through having a patriarchy modeled family, right? And that's going to bring me to um, First Timothy, the 5th chapter. But you know what? Before I get that, let me do this, because I already know somebody's probably going to bring it up. Right? Someone's going to bring it up, so I might as well go to it before. So the title of this is called Patriarchy, Purpose, Family, and Satan's Oldest Trick in the Book, which we still got to get to that in just a second. Satan's oldest trick in the book. We explain patriarchy. It is a man being the head of the clan, the household, the government, etc. Right? You can't have a patriarchy system without a man in the house. We touched on family, which we'll do a little bit more, but purpose, okay? Purpose. As a woman, I'm going to ask you sisters on here, since there's 3 or 4 sisters on here in the comments. What do you feel your purpose is as a woman? Right? What do you feel your purpose is as a woman? And Khan, everything has been peaceful for me. Just got done watching your last live about contentment and progress. Man, that was beautiful. Khan, all praise to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. All praises. Gotta rewatch this. Caught it late. Khan. It's all in the Most High's timing. Right? So the question was to you sisters, if anyone wants to answer, what do you think your purpose is as a woman? Right? And I'm going to get, because I know someone's going to bring this up. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13, which probably everybody knows or has heard. Ecclesiastes 12:13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Yahweh and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. I'm going to read it one more time. Ecclesiastes 12:13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Yahweh and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Right? This is the whole duty of man. As a man specifically, I'm going to speak specifically to men first. Our duty is to fear the Most High and keep his commandments. Now, when people say that, it's a very general statement. There's many commandments that tell you if you have a wife, guess what? You have to provide for her. That is part of your purpose as a man. That is part of the patriarchy system, right? So it's not just when you say commandments, and some people still think, oh, the 10 Commandments, right? Fearing Yahweh, keep his commandments is the whole duty of man. Duty, the definition of duty, is a moral or legal obligation or responsibility. A moral or legal obligation or responsibility, meaning you legally have to do these things. It is your responsibility, your moral and legal obligation to do these things, according to the Most High, to do what? To fear him and to keep his commandments. Okay? But when we talk about purpose. Okay, and I can say this because I've talked to elder. I don't like saying elder, but older women in the truth. Say I would say about 40 and up, 50 and up, right? As a woman, if you're at that age and you're not married and you don't have children or you don't have grandchildren, you don't have a patriarchy system set up, women feel like they have no purpose at that age because in reality you don't, right? So this is the definition of purpose: the reason for which something is done or created for, or for which something exists. The reason for which something is done or created for, or for which something exists. Okay? So purpose, your purpose as a woman is what you were created for. The reason why you exist is what it says. We read this earlier already. Okay, Genesis 2 and 18. And Yahweh said, "It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a help meet for him." The sister said, "Help me." That's literally the reason that the woman was created. Purpose, again, one more time, the definition: the reason for which something is done or created for, or for which something exists. The reason the woman was created, the reason she exists was to be a helpmeet. And guess what? This is the second chapter of the whole Bible. This is the Torah. What is the Torah? It is the law, right? It is the law. You were created to be a helpmeet. Being a helpmeet wife and being a mother. Being a God-fearing, loyal wife, tower against death from my Adawan, and to teach my children to follow the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments. Khan, 100% I agree with all three of you sisters, right? Which is going to bring us to 1 Timothy chapter 5, right? 1 Timothy chapter 5, and I'm going to start on verse 11, right? Verse 11. 1 Timothy 5 and 11. But the younger widows refuse, for when they have begun to wax wanton against Hamashiach, they will marry. Now, I've said this many times, but I'm just going to say it again because I know there's a lot of new followers and stuff like that always coming into the truth and coming onto the page and stuff like that. When it says Christ, we have to remember that Christ is the Word in the flesh, right? And the Word became flesh. He lived his whole life according to the Word. Therefore, he's the Word in the flesh. So when it says here, you began to wax wanton against Christ, it means you want to go against the Word. Okay? So it says, but the younger widows refuse. Now, the majority of women are not widows. They were not married and their husband died, right? But the majority of women that are of the faith, in the truth, whatever you want to say, are not virgins. Okay? The men that slept with them, and according to the law, it says that if you are to lay with a woman, you shall surely endow her, right? Most men do not endow and marry that woman or see sex as marriage, right? So the younger women are basically like spiritual widows when they have sex with the man and the man just leaves them and that woman is dead to them. Okay? They don't talk no more, they don't nothing, right? This is the case for the majority of sisters or women in general, whether it be in the world or whether it be they're now in the truth. 90 something percent, probably 99 point something percent are not virgins. Okay? So it says, having damnation because they have cast off their first faith. I've seen this happen with multiple sisters over the years. Their faith is the Most High. Their faith is the Bible. They want to follow it, right, according to them. But for a man, they're willing for love, right? And I'm gonna get that real quick in Jeremiah 2 and 33. They're willing to trim their way for love. Right? This is Jeremiah 2:33. It says, "Why trimmest thou thy way to seek love? Therefore hast thou also taught the wicked ones thy ways." Many sisters, men as well, though I've seen this happen with many men, they will trim their way to be with somebody. Right? They'll okay, well, I'm not gonna follow this because they're not gonna be down with that. Or I'm not gonna keep Sabbath because they want to go out. Or you know what? This man is supposed to be this way, but I really want to be with him, so he doesn't need to be that way. So it says, having damnation because they have cast off their first faith, and with all they learn to be idle. See, this is the problem with a lot of women. Okay, one of the sisters, the 3, 2, 1 ABCD, you had said, well, I don't, basically what you're saying without saying it is, I don't have to look for a husband. They have to look for me because I'm a gift. That's basically what you said. And with all they learn to be idle, wandering about from house to house, and not only idle, but tattlers also, and busybodies, speaking things which they ought not. Okay, so being idle means you're not moving forward, and you may not be moving backwards either. You may just be in place. Okay, like there was a sister that I knew or know of that 2 years ago got counsel from me, from my rib, from another brother, through me, and we all came to the same conclusion, and she agreed 100%. She said, look, I need a head. This All of these problems that I have would be fixed if I had someone to teach me, if I had someone to help me, to keep me make sure I'm studying, all these things. Since then, nothing has changed. 2 years, right? Physically, no changes, still in the same position, same environment, etc. That is being idle. Not moving back and not moving forward is being idle. Always just being on social media, you're being idle. Always just binge watching Netflix or whatever the case is, idle. Always just coveting other people's stuff, looking at other people's things through Instagram and through social media, and being shopping all the time on the internet or in real life. That's being idle. Then it says wandering about from house to house and being tattlers, speaking things which you are not. A lot of the Israelite community and in the churches as well, because I know someone that's a part of my ribs family that was talking to me about it. She was a part of a church. Something happened in the church this past week concerning the pastor, and the whole thing just turned into a big gossip, a big tattler, speaking things which they ought not. Right. So that's in the Christian church, but also in the so-called Israelite community as well. Going about from house to house. You don't even have to do that literally anymore. You could just get on social media and you could be looking at people's houses, and this house and that house and this brother and that sister and this and that, and be getting in matters that you shouldn't be getting in, right? Putting your head in matters that don't concern you, right? Which the scriptures speak against heavily as well. Right? It says, if you meddle in a matter that concerns you not, is like taking a dog by the ears. You're just asking for trouble doing that. A lot of people are like that. A lot of women are like that. So the point that I was making when it comes to having a purpose and family, if all three of you sisters said that, being a helpmeet is what you're created for. Being a helpmeet and a wife and a mother is what you're created for. Being a God-fearing, loyal wife, tower against death from my Adawan. So I'm assuming that you're already married, sister. Um, if being all these things is what you're created for, should you not seek to fulfill what you were created for? right? You should seek in order to find. You should knock in order for the door to be opened up to you, right? That's the whole point that I was making of that. But I'm gonna keep going. Verse 14. So this is First Timothy 5:14. It says, I will therefore that the younger women marry, bear children, guide the house, give none occasion to the adversary, to speak reproachfully. 15. For some are already turned aside after Satan. Okay? So the will of the Most High is that the younger women marry, because again, they were created to be a helpmeet. Genesis 2:18, the second chapter of the whole Bible, and that is in the Torah, therefore it is a part of the law. I will that therefore that the younger women marry, bear children, because the law also says be fruitful and multiply, does it not? Guide the house. In other words, you guide your children, train up a child in the way that they should go. Give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully. He's going to speak shame on you. All right, that's what a lot of people don't understand. When you're over here being idle and you're not doing nothing, you're giving Satan an opportunity to speak shame on you, right? And even I'll give you another example. I've known of sisters that live, in their moms or their family members' houses, right? And if you're a woman, whether it be in the truth or out of the truth, if you're being idle, you're not doing nothing, whoever you live with is going to speak reproachfully of you. They're going to speak shame on you. You need to do something. You need to get a job. You need to go to school. You need whatever the case may be. Why are they doing that? Because you're not married. You don't have your own house and raising your own children. Therefore, you are giving them the occasion. You are literally, it's like in basketball. You know how they throw the ball up and they throw up the alley oop and someone comes and grabs it and dunks it? That's what you're doing to the enemy. You're giving them the opportunity to speak reproachfully of you by not living out your purpose, right? By not being a part of a patriarchy system. So again, coming back to what we were saying earlier, should you not seek to follow the will then? I will therefore that the younger women marry, bear children, and guide the house. Because I guarantee you, there was years ago where I was like praying to the Most High, you know what? This job ain't gonna cut it. I need a different job. But I didn't sit around and be like, okay, I have faith, Yahweh, you're gonna bring me a job. No, I went out and I searched for a job and I found one. And then when that wasn't working, I prayed again. And then you know what? Started my own business. And then I got the opportunity for a better job because as you seek to help yourself, the Most High is going to help you as well. Right? Faith without works is dead. So therefore, you have to put some work behind if you want to live out your purpose as a man or as a woman. Right? And actually, let me get one more verse and then I'll go to the comments real quick. This is a verse that we brought up in the last live as well. This is Sirach 15 and 15. This is one of my favorite verses right now. All right, Sirach chapter 15 and verse 15. It says, if thou wilt to keep the commandments and to perform acceptable faithfulness. So a lot of people striving to keep the commandments, that's good. You need to be keeping the commandments. Like the sister Lahama had said, when I asked about what do you think, the sister had said, how am I supposed to find, a husband or a father to my children if I'm busy and I'm working and I'm doing all these things, right? She said, keep the commandments. Yes, you have to keep the commandments. But also it's a matter of priority, okay? Because people, a lot of women will prioritize Instagram over, man, my child. Have you seen the statistics? My child, if they're raised without a father, 80% of people in prison were fatherless homes, right? 70 something percent of teen pregnancies were fatherless homes. Shouldn't your priority then be to make sure that doesn't happen by having a father figure in her life? Or should your priority be spending hours on social media and spending hours watching Netflix, etc.? Right? But the point of this verse is it says to perform acceptable faithfulness. To perform acceptable faithfulness. Perform is to carry out or fulfill an action, task, or function. The point is, performing something is a verb, right? So if you want to have acceptable faithfulness, you have to perform acceptable faithfulness. I'm gonna read it one more time. Sirach 15:15. If thou wilt to keep the commandments and to perform acceptable faithfulness. This is why in the book of James it says faith without works is dead. Right? This is why it says, will thou know, O vain man, faith without works is dead. So you can have faith that the Most High will give you a job. But if you don't have the works to seek and find that job, you're not going to get a job. You can have faith that the Most High will just magically send a man your way, but you have to have some type of works. And of course, that comes with striving to be the type of helpmeet you need to be. But it's like my rib just said the other day. She was like, I don't believe that a woman on her own can be the best woman she can be without a husband. And I was like, man, I like the way you said that, but what's your reasoning behind it, right? And her reasoning is, oh, a man is supposed to be the teacher. A man, when you become one flesh with a woman, right? You can see certain things on your wife that she can't even see herself. And it could be negative or it could be positive. Right? I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I like the way you do this," or when you do that, you look so cute, right? And she's like, "What? What do you mean? I'm just doing it." I could see certain things that she doesn't see. Or sometimes in the past it's been like, "Look, when you say or when you talk about this, you kind of do it with this type of attitude." And she's like, "What?" "Well, that's how I've always done it." And I'm like, "Okay, well, you've always done it with this type of temperament or attitude, right?" And as a woman, even, let me get one more precept. As a woman, even, how do you be considered wise of all women? As a woman, how can you be considered wise of all women? See if somebody knows that the answer to that question real quick. Let me go back on the comments real quick. The question is, as a woman, how do you become wise of all women? How can the Most High see you as wise of all women? Because every woman should strive to be one of the wisest women, right? Okay, calm. We read that. No, brother. LOL. Sorry for the confusion. More like as a woman who wants a husband needs to work on being a righteous wife first, but you showed through the scripts I misunderstood those precepts. So I agree. This is also something me and my rib were talking about. And most high willing, next Sabbath, we're gonna have like a different type of live. It's gonna be more of a panel. Yahweh willing, it'll be me and my rib. It'll be another brother that I know in his, well, either one of his ribs or two, or both of his ribs, and then also possibly a single sister and a single brother, just to get all different perspectives, right? So the reason I want to do that, and I don't want to give away too much, right? But me and my rib were talking about this as well. As a woman, if you want, this is one of the questions I'm going to ask on the panel, which is why I don't want to give too much information. But as a woman, this was my ribs answer, right? The question is, as a woman, what do you need to have in order to be ready to be courted or married to a man? And my rib gave the perfect answer. She said you need to be able to respect a man, obviously, and you need to be able to be submissive and learning. Those two go together because you have to submit to what you're learning from the man as long as it's coming from the scriptures, right? So I disagree with sisters, and I've heard a couple sisters just in the past couple of weeks say that they need to learn how to cook better before they get married. Being able to learn how to cook, or being able to know how to cook, there's no scripture that says that, right? I could easily let's say I'm courting a woman. I'm not gonna say, oh, you don't know how to cook. Okay, X, you're off the list, or you're no, it's done, right? Why? Because she could be like, what do you like to eat? Oh, I like mole. I like sopa. She could easily look up 100 different recipes on the internet, right? So when it comes to that, when it comes to sewing, some women think, well, I got to know how to sew before I become a wife. You don't need to know these things. It's very, very, very beneficial for you to know these things, but you don't need to know these things, because if you have a husband that is of the Most High, he's going to teach you what you need to know. And if he doesn't know how to do it himself, he's going to lead you to the resources that you need in order to learn these things, right? Like before my rib knew how to sew anything, I still got her a sewing machine. I still told her, okay, look up how to do this, look up how to sew ribbon. Look, here's a video on fringing, right? And guess what? She learned it. It's not very hard at all to pick up these skills, right? As a woman. As a woman, you need to know how to respect a man before you're married. That's a must. You have to be able to respect your man. And then also, you have to be able to be submissive. If he teaches you something from the Bible, you're going to apply it, right? So I agree with you in the sense of working on yourself, being righteous, but all being righteous means is submitting to the Most High, right? Submitting to what His Word says to do. And how do you learn that? Through your husband, right? First Corinthians 14:35. If she will learn anything, let her learn from her husband at home. And this is why it's very, for lack of a better term, it's very dangerous for women when they try to do things on their own and think they don't need a husband, because the husband is supposed to be the teacher. And I know, for example, right, let me give you the perfect example. This is just one example and then I'll move on. I know of a sister that said, well, I don't keep the new moons, and I don't keep um the holy days sometimes because I don't know when they are, right? Even though those are laws, you're sinning by not doing these things. But if she had a husband, he would easily be like, hey, today's new moon. Hey, next Thursday, new moon. Hey, Passover, April 12th, whatever day, right? You see how easy it would have been to avoid all of those sins just by having a husband, right? The sister said gossip feast. That is Gossip feast is the Christian church in general, right? And if you would have heard, man, it was crazy. So basically, I'm not going to give the whole story, but basically, in one Christian church, something happened with the pastor. He had been in a sin for a long amount of time. Every one person found out about it. The whole church decided to have a meeting on a Saturday on the Shabbat to discuss what happened, right? And so this female that used to go to that church asked me, what do you think about this? And I showed her a whole bunch of verses. And long story short, that's what it was, gossip feast. But that's also what it is, so-called in the truth, people of the faith, right? um Khan, we don't time to be idle. It's only one rest day and the Shabbat is to be holy. Khan, I was going to make a post the other day. I didn't get to do it, or I didn't do it after all, but maybe in the future. And it was basically just saying you need to take your rest as seriously as you take your work, right? And a lot of men don't take work seriously. So, of course, they're not going to take the rest as seriously, but you get the point, right? Um, hey, shalom, Mark, shalom. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai Brakatah. Barzayah Judah. Hope all is well with you, Ak. Salakia keeps dropping down every time y'all post a comment. Sister said Khan. Shalom, shalom, peace and blessings to you, Ak. It's a brother of y'all, Khan. Shabbat shalom, Ak. Shabbat shalom. Actions speak louder than words. That's what I'm working on. Khan. That's something that everybody has to work on, right? Everybody has to work on in one way or another. Your actions speak louder than your words, and that's why in a patriarchy system, right, as a man, if the man's actions aren't lining up with his words, the woman's going to see that, and it's going to rub off on her. And then the woman's in the same spirit, and the children are going to see that, and it's going to rub off on them. Right? So there you go. The brother answered the question. The question was, as a woman, how do you be considered wise of all by the Most High? Right? Let me get that real quick. Sirach, chapter 26 and verse 26. It says, a woman that honoreth her husband shall be judged wise of all. So if let's just say me as a man, if I knew there's a certain prerequisite as to me being considered wise of all by the Most High, I would be striving to fulfill that prerequisite to even try to be wise of all. Right now, using that in the context that we're doing as a woman that honoreth her husband shall be judged wise of all. The prerequisite to be judged wise of all is you have to be married, right? You have to be married in order to be even considered for being judged wise of all, because a woman that honors her husband is the one that's going to be judged wise of all. So as a woman, you should be striving to be married then, if you want to be judged wise of all, right? And then you have the other side of it. It says, but she that dishonoreth him, her husband, in her pride shall be counted ungodly of all. Right? You'll be counted wise of all by honoring your husband, because that's the order. Remember, we started with 1 Corinthians 11 and 3. You have Yahweh, the Most High. You have Yahushai, our Messiah. Then you have the man, the head of the household. Then you have the woman. So the woman follows the man as the man follows his heads, right? So if you break that chain, you as a woman, if you're not honoring your husband, if you're dishonoring your husband, you are dishonoring those above him as well. Just like if me as a man, if I was dishonoring the son of the Most High, right, I would be dishonoring the father, who is his head. So it's the same thing with the woman. By a woman dishonoring her husband, she is not only dishonoring our Messiah, but she's also dishonoring the Most High, who's in charge of all of it. Because you're breaking the chain of command, right? And the brother said, don't pluck down your house. Khan, don't pluck down your house. That's a lot of women do this, right? I've seen a brother that, man, I love, that was near and dear to me, was no longer in the truth, and this is what happened to him. There's Proverbs chapter 14 and verse 1. It says, every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish plucketh it down with her hands. Right? I've seen this happen where women I've seen women outside the truth do this. I've seen women that claim to be in the truth do this as well. Well, you know what? I don't want to keep Sabbath like that anymore. We should still be able to go out and we can rest, but we got to go, we can do other things. Well, I mean, it doesn't say don't celebrate Christmas in the Bible. And the man just follows along with that, right? And in that sense, he is or she is pulling or plucking down the house with her hands, right? And that's something that, man, that's very, very hard for a man to get out of. That's a slippery slope, as they say, right? It's a snowball effect. Um, that's mighty. Can't wait. Khan. Most High willing, you get to be a part of that, right? It's a beautiful thing when it's done in the right spirit, right? My husband is my Lord. He's my backbone, and as long as he leads me to Yahweh, then that's all I need. Okay, Khan. So if you're married, most high willing, and this is something else, right? This is something else that I tell sisters too. I've told sisters to stop following me on Instagram before, because they'll be like, oh well, my are you sure about this? Because I believe such and such. And I'm like, okay, well, now over the years, the first thing I ask is, are you married? Are you courting? Are you single? Right? And they'll be like, well, I'm married. And I say, okay, well, your husband is supposed to be your teacher then. If you got questions, call him and come to me, right? Your husband should be your backbone. Your husband should be leading you to the Most High. But let's be real, the majority of husbands are not leading their wives to the Most High, right? The sister said, take instruction. Khan. That's being that is being moldable and being able to learn, right? That worldly feminist mindset is rampant. Khan. It most definitely is. And that is part of the oldest trick in the book, which we're going to get to in just a second. Right? We'll get to that in just a second. How does a wife honor a wicked husband? If living with him was putting her light out and causing her to go back to that life of sin she repented she repented from. Okay, let me get a verse for you, or a couple verses for you real quick. Or you know what? I'm gonna come back to that question. Just that, as to not get off topic, because I still got some verses I want to go through, and I'm gonna come back to that question in just a minute. Right? So we talked about patriarchy, we talked about purpose, right? Purpose as opposed to duty, right? Because remember, duty, because everybody will say that. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Yahweh, keep his commandments. This is the whole duty of man. That's all you got to do. Just fear him, keep his commandments. That is true. I would never speak against the scriptures to say that's not true. But remember, your duty is a moral or legal obligation or responsibility. That's something that you are required to do, as in have to do. Not everybody has to get married, right? Paul was not married, right? But Paul was a man, right? Paul was his own teacher through the Spirit, through the Holy Spirit, right? A woman, if she will learn anything, is supposed to learn from her husband. So it's different as when it comes to purpose for a woman, right? Because as a man, and I'm not trying to say that well, I'm gonna say it how I always say it, right? As a man, we have more authority and power because we have a higher position in the household as a patriarch, right? But the woman's position is just as important when you have a family, right? Because the woman in reality is the one who's normally more there with the children on a day-to-day basis, right? That's why it said a wise woman's going to build up her house. She's going to build up her children. She's going to keep her house in order when the man's working or man's doing what he has to do, right? But the man being the chief, which is also one of my favorite verses at the moment, is Mark 10:44. And whosoever of you will be the chiefest shall be servant of all. I would say that the man has a harder job than the woman. And my rib agreed with me on this on multiple occasions. We've even studied this with my children there and everything. The man has more responsibilities because we went over this verse, right? And one of my daughters was asking, I said, whosoever of you will be the chiefest shall be servant of all. And she kind of laughed to herself. And she was like, so since you're like the chief, then you're our servant. And I was like, in a sense, yes, I am, because I got to make sure y'all have food. I make sure y'all have a roof over your head. I make sure y'all got light. I make sure y'all got water. I make sure y'all got clothes, right? I got make sure you got toilet paper to wipe your ass, right? I got to make sure all of these things are in order for all of y'all, right? And we're a household of 6, about to be 7. So the chief, which when you think about tribes, there's a chief to every tribe, right? And the chief is actually the one that is serving everybody else. I got to make sure that we're studying and they're getting the word, right? I got to make sure they have water, actual physical water, but also spiritual water. So in that sense, I am 100% the servant to all of them. I have a lot more duties and jobs that I have to do for them than they do for me. But in return, I expect for them to be wise, right? Especially my rib, which I will say and I'm not trying to be prideful in no way, shape, or form. I'm trying to be thankful to the Most High when I say that she is very wise, in the sense that since we've been married, she has never once married in the truth, like what, about 6 years. We've been together about 10 years. Since we've been in the truth, she has never once yelled at me. She has never once called me out of my name, calling me a curse word or something like that. Never once in 6 years, right? So that's in return. She does that. She honors me. And she takes care of the children when I'm not here. She cooks, she cleans, she'll have food ready when I come home. If she know I had a long day, she's gonna have my clothes ready so I can shower, etc. She'll even come with me to work some days, just so if we got like someone, if the children are fine and they already did their homeschool and all that, she'll come with me to work just so we can end up making double or triple the amount of money, because I get paid by like how much I do, right? So saying all that to say, in a patriarchy family, yes, the man has more power, but at the same time, he has more duty, and he is the servant to all, right? And that brings us to 1 Timothy 5:8. It says, but if any provide not for his own, especially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. So I believe it was the sister Lahama. Khan, all praise to the Most High. All praise to the Most High. I thank him every day for my rib, for my family, for all of that. And it did take years, because like I said, we were about 4 years out of the truth together, already married technically, right? Living together and everything. And I mean, like I said before, I married her at 18. So to go from that, and then her being about, 21, 22, coming into the truth, it was amazing how the Most High can just like flip a switch, right? But anyways, coming back to this, I believe the sister Lahama, you had said that what if a man that claims to be in the truth isn't providing or doesn't want to provide for his child? This is the answer to that. 1 Timothy 5:8. But if any provide not for his own, and specially for those of his own house, so if you're not providing for those of your house, and when you look at, for example, in Matthew, the first chapter, it says that Yahushua came from the house of David, meaning, and they trace his lineage all the way back to David. He was from his seed, right? So if a man is not providing for his own seed, he has denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. So you're denying the faith of the Most High. You could say you're of the faith. You could say you're in the truth. You could say whatever you want, but you're denying the faith, and you're worse than a non-believer if you're not providing for your child, right? Because again, and if you read Sirach, the 30th chapter, that's probably like the best example. From 31 to like 13 or 14, it gives you the examples. If you love your son, you're going to correct him. You're going to cause him to feel the rod, right? So you can have joy of him in the end, right? It says, give him not liberty in his youth. Don't wink at his follies, right? Meaning don't give him too much space to do whatever he wants. It says bow down his neck. It says chastise him. It says hold him to labor, or else he's going to behave badly, right? So that is the job. The mom, of course, is going to be correcting them throughout the day. But again, having an authoritative figure, having a man in the house is what is going to really put fear in the children to want to do the right thing, right? So let me get a couple precepts on that, and then we'll finish in Genesis, the 3rd chapter, and talk about Satan's oldest trick in the book, right? So this is Sirach 41, and I'm going to start on verse 5. It says, the children of sinners are abominable children, and they that are conversant in the dwelling of the ungodly. So the children of sinners are going to be abominable. They're not going to follow the law, statutes, commandments, and precepts of the Most High. Because however you raise up or train up a child, they're not going to depart from that the majority of the time, right? And they're going to be conversant in the dwelling of the ungodly. They're just going to be hanging out in place, and I'm a perfect example of this, right? When I was younger, I would love not being home. It was just my mom in the house, so she's out working and doing all these other things, and I would be going to friends' house, right? Friends' houses all the time, and I was in the dwelling of their houses, and they were ungodly too. We were smoking weed, we were drinking at a young age, just doing stupid things we shouldn't be doing. Verse 6, the inheritance of sinners shall perish, or of sinners' children shall perish, and their posterity shall have a perpetual reproach. When you're living as a sinner, right, and your children also become sinners and are abominable, your children aren't going to have any inheritance. Whether it be spiritual, and we're all trying to inherit the kingdom, a sinner's children are more than likely not going to inherit the kingdom. But also it could be financially, right? You have a lot of people that may have money and they leave it to their children, and their children were raised with no chastising, no chastisement, and they just waste it all on drugs, on whatever the case may be, and there's nothing left. And it says their posterity shall have a perpetual reproach. When people think of them, when they even think of their name, it's going to have a reproach. It's going to have a type of shame attached to it, right? That's why like in high school, for example, I went to high school and I had a teacher, and it was the same teacher my sister had, and they were like, "Oh, your last name is Bea. Oh, are you related to so and so?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's my sister." And they were like, "Oh, she was such a good student," and blah blah blah, right? Because your name carries either a shame to it, right, or your name can carry a type of honorable uh context to it, right? It says the children will complain of an ungodly father, because they shall be reproached for his sake. So when it comes to patriarchy, when it comes to family, children will complain of an ungodly father. When your father or your mother isn't doing or isn't living out their role correctly, you're going to complain of it. Whether it be you're verbally complaining of it, or whether it be just in your spirit, you're just groaning and, oh man, you're just in a constant state of shame for their sake, right? And actually, let me get Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4. This is, man, this verse right here was for me, coming in the truth, was a so-called cold cut, right? It was just cold, and I was like, damn. This is Wisdom of Solomon 4 and 6. For children begotten of unlawful beds, for children begotten of unlawful beds, when you have a child outside of marriage, right? You have sex and you don't consider it marriage. For children begotten of unlawful beds are witnesses of wickedness against their parents in their trial. So imagine the Most High one day, he's having you at trial, and you had this child, you didn't see it as marriage, or you had children, you didn't see it as marriage, y'all separated, whatever. And the Most High, you're having your trial. It says that the children are going to be witnesses of wickedness against their parents. Imagine that. The Most High, like, well, you didn't take care of your parent, you didn't take care of your children, you didn't provide for them, you didn't stick around in their life. And the children are there, like, yep, it's true. I'm a witness of wickedness against my parent. I saw that, right? And a lot of times it just comes back to, or it all ties into Genesis, the third chapter, right? Which I'm gonna get right now. Genesis 3, and I'll start on verse 1, right? So we talked about patriarchy, purpose, family, and now we're gonna get real briefly into Satan's oldest trick in the book, which it ties in to all of these things. So this is Genesis chapter 3 and verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahweh had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath Yahweh said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? Verse 2. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Yahweh hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. Right? So even though this wasn't written back then, we know that the so-called Old Testament, New Testament goes hand in hand. What will kill you? Because it says, Ye shall surely die. Romans 6 and 23 says, The wage of sin is death. Right? So just keep that in mind. Verse 5. For Yahweh doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, or actually, I'm going to pause there for a second. Let me read verse 5 one more time. For Yahweh doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. So the serpent, right? And we know a lot of people still think that the serpent was actually a physical snake, which we know snakes don't talk. The serpent was speaking to the woman, and he told her, you're going to be as a god if you eat of this, right? When you look at the word God, Allah, or gods, which is plural, Allahayim, in the Paleo Hebrew, it basically means a power, right? You shall be a power. So you're going to have power, is what he was promising Eve, okay? And we know this because in the Bible, in Exodus, the Most High even tells Moses, he says, I have made you a god unto Pharaoh, and Aaron is your prophet. So it's not literally saying you will be the Most High, right? A god is basically being a power. So the serpent, which we're going to talk about what he is and what that tree is in a second, promised power. Okay, he promised power to the woman. Now, who is supposed to be the power of the household? It's supposed to be the man, right? So the serpent promised the woman power. And not only this, but she was already made as a helpmeet to Adam, meaning she is supposed to, if she's supposed to learn anything, 1 Corinthians 14:35, she's supposed to be learning from Adam, from her husband, right? So she's also learning from another man and being promised power. So verse 6, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. So this is a very important, one of the most important verses in this chapter. Verse 6. When the woman saw the tree was good for food, right? She could eat of it. And it was pleasant to the eyes. It was good looking. And it was a tree to be desired, and she desired it to make her wise. She took his fruit and she ate of it, right? So we're going to go to Ezekiel chapter 31, and I'm going to start on verse 1 so we can understand that Genesis and a lot of the books that were written in Hebrew. I remember me and the brother Jomar did that on Lamentations as well. Almost the whole book of Lamentation was written in a poetic and musical form, right? And you have to understand that Hebrew was a very poetic and artistic language. It was a lot of parables. It was a lot of symbolism. Okay, so this is Ezekiel chapter 31. I'll just start on verse 1. Khan, the man, the sister said, the man is supposed to be the one teaching her, right? He is supposed to be the one with power. But the serpent said, eat of this tree and you will have power. So this is Ezekiel 31 and 1. And it came to pass in the 11th year, in the 3rd month, in the first day of the month, that the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his multitude, whom art thou like in thy greatness? So it's talking about Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon, with fair branches, and with a shadowing shroud, and of a high stature, and his top was among the thick boughs. So what is Ezekiel through the Most High's vision, or through the Most High's word, right? What is he comparing Pharaoh the Assyrian to? He said, behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon. He was a cedar tree. He's comparing him to a cedar tree, right? All throughout the scriptures, you read Psalm 1 and 1. A man that is meditating in the scriptures is going to be like a tree planted next to water, right? Yahushua said, you'll know a man, or you'll know a tree by its fruits. All throughout the scriptures, there's many examples of a man being compared to a tree. Okay, so I'm gonna read it again and keep going. Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon, with fair branches. What does fair mean? It means it looks good, right? Genesis chapter 1 and verse 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, right? That's what it's talking about. It was fair. It, Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon, with fair branches, and with a shadowing shroud, and of a high stature, and his top was among the thick boughs. The waters made him great. The deep set him up on high, with her rivers running round about his plants, and set her rivers unto all the trees of the field. So the waters represents his teachings, his doctrines, his customs. Just like the living waters is the word, right? It's the Bible. What does the Bible teach us? It teaches us doctrine, teaches us Hebrew customs, teaches us laws, statutes, commandments, precepts, all these things that the Most High wants us to follow, right? So the Assyrian, which was a tree, had waters going out, running from him, that made him great. Okay, and the rivers went unto all the trees of the field. He had a lot of power, and his doctrine that he was giving out was going to everybody, right? It's just like Christmas is a perfect example since we just passed that. When certain groups would take over certain areas, they would bring their waters or their doctrine or their customs with them. And then before you knew it, like in England, for example, the Queen of England took a picture in the late 1800s, I believe, of her and her family around a Christmas tree. And within 50 years, they said 9 out of 10 families had Christmas trees because that was their water. It ran out to all the trees of the field, right? I'm going to read verse 5. Therefore, his height was exalted above all the trees of the field, and his boughs were multiplied, and his branches became long because of the multitude of waters when he shot forth. So, again, still talking about Pharaoh, the Assyrian, he was like a cedar tree. It said his height got high, he got more power, right? And his branches shot out to farther and farther. He got more and more power over more lands, over more people, right? And the rivers went to all the trees. They kept going. Their doctrine, his way of teaching, whatever the case may be, whatever gods they were following, shot out to everybody. Verse 6, all the fowls of heaven made their nests in his boughs, and under his branches did all the beasts of the field bring forth their young, and under his shadow dwelt all great nations. So, what is this talking about? This is talking about people. They're talking about nations of people, right? Were under him. Verse 7, thus was he fair in his greatness. Remember, Eve said the tree, it looked good, right? In it says, thus was he fair in his greatness, in the length of his branches, for his root was by great waters. The cedars in the garden of God could not hide him. So remember, this was in the garden of the Most High, right? What is the garden of the Most High talking about? The Garden of Eden, right? It says the fir trees were not like his boughs, and the chestnut trees were not like his branches, nor any tree in the garden of the Most High was like unto him in his beauty. Verse 9, I have made him fair by the multitude of his branches, so that all the trees of Eden that were in the garden of Yahweh envied him. Okay, so remember, this is talking about Pharaoh. This is talking about the Assyrian, the king of Egypt. And it said he was the nicest looking tree in the Garden of Eden, right? In the Garden of Eden. Where was Adam and Eve? The Garden of Eden. So I'm just saying that to prove that this tree that she was eating of was not an actual tree. It was actually her going to another man, another doctrine, eating of that doctrine, right? Eating of his fruit. Because like it says, a tree will be known by his fruits. A man's fruits are his actions, right? I'm gonna go back to Genesis. It says, I'm gonna read verse 6 one more time. 3 and 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. Right? So let me get Proverbs 31:3 real quick. Proverbs 31:3. Give not thy strength unto women, nor thy ways to that which destroyeth kings. Give not thy strength unto women. So not only was this woman going against, of course, at that time, the so-called New Testament wasn't written. 1 Corinthians 14:35 says, if she will learn anything, let her learn from her husband at home, right? She went and sought out this good looking, this pleasant tree. It was pleasant to the eyes. She desired this man to make her wise, right? And she ate of his fruit, And not only did she eat of it, but she gave it to her husband. And guess what? He ate of it as well, right? And this shows a weakness in man. And actually, now that I think about it, so the other day, um, there was a sister that reached out to me, and a single sister, right? And she said she asked me a couple questions about a certain book, and I already knew where it was headed. It was a book. I'm not even gonna say what book it is because I don't want other people looking into it. But it was a book that Old Testament only or Torah only Israelites tend to use, right? And she said basically, this brother, she was kind of thinking of possibly courting him or so being courted by him or something like that. And she just wanted to know about this book, what was wrong with it, if anything. And long story short, she said a lot of what he's saying makes sense, but something seems wrong, right? And I was like, well, Torah only, you should already know right off the bat that that's wrong, right? And she was like, well, let me send you some of the stuff he's saying so that you could see how it makes sense, right? And my first thought was this right here. When Eve is like, here, eat of this, and he did eat of it, right? In John, what is it, Second John 1:10 and 11, I believe, it says, if anyone bring another doctrine to you, wish him not Godspeed, neither invite him into your house, for he that doeth so is partaker in his evil deeds. So just by us eating of other fruits, other doctrines, especially people that don't believe in Yahushua and our Messiah, right? You are eating of that doctrine, it's not going to lead to anything good for you, right? It's not going to lead to anything good whatsoever. So this is what happened to the woman. But notice, because I know a couple times, I know the sister Lahama and somebody else had mentioned about that the woman trying to be the head. That's something that's running rampant right now, right? What did Satan promise in the beginning to the woman in order to get her to go off? He said, ye shall be as gods, right? You'll have power. All you got to do is eat of this tree, eat of this other doctrine. And not only did she eat of it, but she also, as soon as she ate of it, she did get power. She got power over her husband, over Adam, because he also ate of that doctrine, right? And this is why, actually, I'm gonna get it real quick. This is why it says this in First Corinthians 14. 1 Corinthians 14, and I'm gonna start on 34. It says, let your women keep silence in the churches, for it is not permitted unto them to speak, but they are commanded to be under obedience, as also saith the law. Verse 35. And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is a shame for women to speak in the church. Right? So this doesn't mean, if let's say you're a single sister, right? And you have a question, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're a married sister, and I've told sister this many times before, if you're a married sister, you should in reality be asking your husband first. And maybe, and one thing they've said is, well, he doesn't know, or I don't think he knows. Well, you're giving him the opportunity to learn, for not only you but also for him, in just asking, right? And that's something that a lot of sisters aren't used to, I guess, or a lot of sisters don't like. And the reason why is because they want to eat of another tree, right? And now if your husband, let's say, says, you know what, no, yeah, it's cool, you can learn from that brother, right? That's a different story. But if you're just like over here just learning from a whole bunch of different men, right, what you're doing really is, like it says in Sirach, you're trying to drink of any water, right? And I'm gonna get that real quick. This is Sirach chapter 26, and I'm gonna start on verse 12. All right, the brother said, right. That's right. And Khan, your head teaches you everything. We as women have to trust our men. Let him pray about the answer. Let him pray and let him search the scriptures, right? So this is Sirach 26 and verse 12. It says, she will open her mouth as a thirsty traveler when he hath found a fountain and drink of every water near her. By every hedge will she sit down and open her quiver against every arrow. Now, when you look at some of the other translations, I've looked at them, man, it's bad. It's like she will open her legs to any man, right? But you can look at it spiritually and you can look at it physically, right? So when it says she will open her mouth as a thirsty right? She'll take any man. She's a whore. She's a harlot. She's a hoe. She's a thought. Whatever the case may be. But there's also women in this truth that will open their mouth as a thirsty traveler to any type of water. What is water? Water is doctrine, right? It's like Yahushua said, any man who thirsts and drinks of me will never thirst again because he's going to give them the living waters. He's talking spiritually, right? There's a lot of women, especially single women, and I've seen this a lot over the years in the truth and a lot recently as well, where it's like women, they're single and they're learning from 5 different brothers, 3 different camps, 2 different congregations, whatever the case may be. They're just opening up their mind and their spirit to every type of water that she comes across. And all that is going to cause is a whole bunch of confusion, right? That's why you have sisters saying stuff like, "Oh well, you know, he's a Torah only, but he kind of makes sense. He a lot of the things he making says make sense, but then some, I wanted to see if this was all right." That's confusion, right? You can't believe in our Messiah, but then be learning from Torah only. You can't be believing the Most High has chosen people, but then you're learning from people who say it doesn't matter who you are, right? You can't be learning or believe you have to keep the commandments, but then some people saying, no, well, you don't have to keep those commandments, right? You can't just open up yourself to any type of waters. And that goes for men as well, right? But this specific verse says she will open her mouth as a thirsty traveler when he hath found a fountain and drink of every water near her, right? And actually, I'll go back to 1 Corinthians 14 and 33. It says, for Yahweh is not the author of confusion. So when you're learning from all these different people and camps and congregations and churches and doctrines and religions, that's what it leads to. It leads to confusion, right? So that's verse 33. So if you just jump down 2 verses, it says, if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home. Why? Because learning from your husband at home is going to clear up all the confusion, right? My rib doesn't learn from any other man. She's not confused about what she believes. She knows what our doctrine is. A doctrine is a set of rules to live by. She knows because she has a mind well instructed. There is nothing that has as much worth as a mind well instructed, like we read earlier, right? The brother said, Barzayah Judah, they want to believe there's just a super brother out here that got it all figured out. If a brother don't know, don't make him wicked. Like the brother said, y'all can learn together. Khan. So every single brother that's married should be the teacher of his wife and his household. Now, does that mean he knows every single thing? No, like the brother just said. But by you going over your husband's head, over his authority, and going to someone else and asking, it is dishonoring your husband in a sense. Because look at it this way. If, like when I was in the army, right? If that's one thing they're very serious about, you do not break the chain of command. If I had my platoon leader, right, and I go over his head and I go to somebody else who's higher than him and I say, hey, my platoon leader did blah, 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 so and so, A, B, C, D, guess what? They're going to say, okay, well, did you pull it up with the person under me? Why are you skipping rank? Right? And I'm actually the one that's going to get in trouble. It's the same thing in the truth. You go to your husband and like, okay, well, I don't know about this. Can you teach me on this subject? Or I had a question about this, right? If he doesn't know, now you're giving him the opportunity to better himself and learn about it. And he can search the scriptures. If he still has questions, he can ask a brother or an elder or somebody else, and he can get a solid foundational understanding on it. And then he can teach you. Win win, right? But let's say you learn from someone else, and then you ask him something and he says something different, and you're like, well, I learned from such and such that blah, 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 blah. And it's just going to cause more and more and more problems. And also, he's going to feel dishonored. And we just read earlier in Sirach 26 and 23 that the wickedest woman is someone who dishonors her husband, right? So that's just something to keep in mind as well. That's another issue that can be avoided. If you're just married and your husband's teaching you, that's going to clear up the confusion. But also, if you're married, you should be going to your husband first before anything. You don't go to another tree to seek out wisdom, right? Like Eve did in the garden. She wanted more wisdom than Adam, and then she was like, "Here, you could eat of it too." That's like, okay, I learned from this brother. My husband didn't know. I know he didn't know. I learned from this brother. I ate from his tree. I got his wisdom, and now I'm gonna come feed it to my husband, right? And maybe that doctrine wasn't even true. Maybe it was off. And now you ate of that and you fed it to your husband. And let's say he ate of it, he didn't even look into it. And now you're both in sin. You're both in transgression, right? And it came because the woman being prideful, the woman not going to her husband, and also because the man gave power to the woman and ate of it as well, right? Khan, Khan, I agree 100%. Needs to be a singular mindset slash understanding. There has to be. And I've spoke about this many times. It's like when me and other brothers were gonna join certain camps, affiliations, etc. And there was just certain issues, not even issues, certain doctrinal beliefs, certain salvation issues that we were not on the same understanding in, and therefore can two walk together except they be agreed? La they cannot. I'm not going to be out teaching with a Torah only Hebrew Israelite, right? I'm not going to be teaching about patriarchy or something like that with a brother that doesn't provide for his household, or that believes you could beat your wife or something like that, right? There has to be a singular mindset through the Spirit, through Philippians 2 and 2, like it says, right? You have to be of one mind, one accord. Khan saying military background is still that in me. That hierarchy is something serious. Khan. And that's a good thing. You know, most of us, it's like that. There's a Black Star song. It says, most men join the ranks foolishly, buffoonishly accept the deception, believe the perception. A lot of us joined the military. And when you look at the military, it's mostly Israelites. It's mostly so-called blacks, Hispanics, and some natives, right? But that's one thing that definitely stuck with me, is being more militant minded when it comes to hierarchy. I wouldn't say patriarchy as much, but they have that hierarchy and that set uh austerity to where it's like these are the rules and you're going to follow them, right? It's a serious thing, and that's how it should be in households. That's how it should be in tribes, in clans, in camps, whatever, right? Sister said that's off. Khan, guilty, working on that, dishonoring. Khan, Khan, that's something definitely has to be worked out. Warrior's dream. Shalom, shalom. So going back to I'm gonna read Sirach 26 and 12 one more time. She will open her mouth as a thirsty traveler when he hath found a fountain, and drink of every water near her. Why is she gonna drink like a thirsty traveler of all these different waters and doctrines? It's because she's thirsty. It's because she is dehydrated. I did a whole live on that. It said women thirsty, dehydrated, or drowning in doctrine, right? And that still applies even more so right now. When a woman doesn't have a husband to teach her, she is going to be either thirsty, right? She needs some more water. She's gonna be dehydrated. She doesn't have any, or drowning in doctrine the majority of the time. Well, I'm learning from this camp, and then I'm learning from this brother, and then I'm learning from there's this brother that teaches with his wife, right? And then I'm learning from this other camp over here, and all of them have doctrines that are contrary to each other, right? So she's just drowning. She doesn't know which ones to believe. She's trying to swim, but she can't. It's just too much, right? Then it says, by every hedge will she sit down and open her quiver against every arrow, right? And I know, sadly, I've known of sisters like that too. They want a husband so bad, they get with one dude, sleep with them, and then he's not sticking around. Get with another dude, he's not sticking around, right? And that's why you got to watch it with some of these camps that believe that you can get with harlots, right? It's okay. They believe if there's no covenant, there's no written contract, then it's fine. You could just leave a woman behind, right? Khan, never satisfied. Warrior's dream, that was an excellent lesson. Drowning in doctrine. Khan, all praise to the Most High. All praise to the Most High, right? So with that, let me see. No, I had a few more verses, but I think for the most part, we covered pretty much everything. The patriarchy, right? Going back to patriarchy, it is a system of society, which when you look at it, the family unit is a system of society. It's a smaller version of society, right? The majority of families make up society, whether it be customs, whether it be religion, whether it be what's acceptable to society, right? That's why do you think a bunch of families have a Christmas tree? So then you go to a local park like we did not a month ago, and you go and you see a 3 foot tall Christmas tree, right? Like some of y'all might have remembered. I had asked on my story, would you help bail a brother out if he burned down a Christmas tree? Because I was thinking about it, man. I was thinking about it, but there's felonies that would have been involved, and I wouldn't be able to carry a gun anymore. So that's not um, prudent or wise in my eyes to give up that so-called right in order to burn a 3-story Christmas tree, right? But the point is, why is there a 3-story tall Christmas tree in the middle of the park, and people are just happy and accepting of it? Because the majority of families accept that and they do that in their life, right? So patriarchy is a system of society or government in which the father or eldest male is head of the family and descent is traced through the female line or through the male line. So patriarchy is something, it may be a system of society in one house, my house, but then you can look around in the cities around, and I guarantee you the majority of them are a matriarchy. The mother is in charge, right? So in order to bring purpose back to our families and our households, we have to do that first in order to make a nation that is set on patriarchy, right? That is set on purpose and family. And that's why when you look at Satan's oldest trick in the book, there's no new thing under the sun, right? There's no new thing under the sun. So that trick is still, or even more so, prevalent and found in modern society right now, right? Because that is what is acceptable. That is what is pushed. When you look at TV, you got all these strong women, strong, quote unquote, strong women, strong independent women, right? And that's what's pushed because they know if you cut off the head, so falls the body, right? You even look my two oldest daughters, right, which my baby mama from high school, that's who I had them with. They were with her a few weeks ago, and she took them to see that new Black Panther movie, right? And my oldest daughter came back and she was telling me about it, and I could tell she was vexed. She was like, "Man, that movie was so dumb, and it was this and that." And I was like, I was kind of laughing. I was like, "Why?" She was like, "Cause one of the like the groups, the Wakanda or whatever, I don't know what they were called, like they're all the female warriors, or all the warriors are females. There's not one man that's like a fighter." And I was like, "Man, what kind of shit is that?" Right? And she started cracking up, but she was literally vexed because all the women were warriors, and she was just saying like, "Man, that's not how it's supposed to be, and that's how the men are supposed to be the protectors and all these things." And I was just, proud dad moment, not a prideful moment, but proud that it literally vexed her spirit to see like that, how they push matriarchy, matriarchy, matriarchy over patriarchy. And then when they do show men on TV and stuff, they're soft. You know what I mean? They're real. They're not men, right? We used to watch, or we were watching, what is it called? Walker, like that Walker Texas Ranger. I don't know if y'all are old enough to remember. The old one was with Chuck Norris. There's a new one, and the dude who plays the main character, he's just a soft. He's real unsure of himself. He's stuttering and There's just very few, very little patriarchy figures in modern society that they'll actually show you, right? And that's why it's good to read the scriptures. And like I said earlier, I believe it's Hebrews 7:4. It talks about the patriarch Abraham. Acts 2:29. It talks about the patriarch David. These were men that their whole system, their whole society, their whole government was ran. Their family was ran by them as the head of the family, society, government, etc. Right? Khan. That's mighty. And that's what we need to be instilling in our daughters, right? Because a daughter is the one, a father is the one who is supposed to be keeping a real watch over the daughters, over the sons too. But as a matter of fact, I'm gonna finish with that scripture in Sirach 42, right? Sirach 42. Let me read this real quick. I observe and compare the successes and failures of patriarchal and matriarchal societies, and one only has to look at the condition and end result of the matriarchal to see which one is better, is a better choice. Khan, exactly. When you have a matriarchy society, you just look in the direction it goes in. It's worse and worse, and you look at it, it's more wicked and more wicked and more wicked. And you know what's one perfect example? How come gay dudes, right, homosexual men, how come their biggest like motivators, or the biggest supporters of them is a bunch of women? Because that's what happens in a matriarchal society, right? That's the perfect example I could think of when it comes to matriarchy. Because every gay dude's got a bunch of females that are egging him on to be a feminist or a feminine man, right? Yeah, they push feminism even with men. Khan, exactly what I'm talking about, right? Chokiboa, those movies are to push the agenda of masculine women. Y'all ever notice how dads in kid shows are always portrayed as stupid or goofy? The mothers usually run the house. Exactly. The man is never a wise, providing man, right? It's never the man being the head of the household on TV, on movies, etc. And even in the rare times that you do see the man, like I was saying, that TV show, it's called Walker, right? um his wife like died. I think she got shot or something, so he's the head of his two children. But he's like this weak, he's like as tall as a damn door, right? He's this big old dude. But when he speaks, you could just see like the feminine and unsure energy or spirit on him, to where he's like, well, I was gonna, but they never show a manly man, right? It's always a feminine type of man. It's always someone stupid or goofy, like the brother just said, right? The brother said, right, men aren't pushing women to be more manly. Yeah, you're not gonna see a brother, right, or a man being like, yeah, that's what's up, sis, or not even sis, right? Because all these women don't even like to be called women when they're trying to be masculine, which is just crazy. It's crazy. Warrior's dream. I've got a clear testimony that could provide personal experience as to a matriarchal family that I'm close to that is failing. I pray for them often. It's truly sad where they are headed. Khan, Khan. I've seen that many times. And even in the world, right? The only real father figure I had was one of my tios, one of my mom's sister's husband, right? And he was a manly man, always working outside, always. I mean, when I was probably 8 or 9 years old, he was building his own house, his own 2-story house. He even let me. I put a couple nails in. I was super young, right? He was a manly man. Built his own fence, his own well, his own home. But he joined the army, or he was in the army 20, 25 years, retired. He went overseas multiple times, did multiple tours, etc. Came back like most people do, not the same. And in raising, especially his last daughter, who's now, I believe, a senior, or she just graduated, over time, his wife got the authority. And you could just see when a man changes when he loses his power, right? When the woman has the power. And it's a sad thing to see, but like you said, sometimes that's all you could do for them is pray for them. If people, you can't help somebody who don't want to be helped, right? But yeah, so I'm gonna finish with this and then I'm gonna close it out. um Salakia, where is it at? Okay, Sirach 42:9. The father waketh for the daughter when no man knoweth, and the care for her taketh away sleep. When she is young, lest she pass away the flower of her age, and be married, lest she should be hated. So it says a father is going to wake up for his daughter when no one even knows. It's going to, taking care of her is going to take away sleep. He's going to be, okay, I got to do this for her. I got to make sure she has that, right? When she is young, lest she pass away the flower of her age, and being married, lest she should be hated. So it's saying she needs to get married when she's young, or she is going to lose her virginity and be hated. Back in the days, in the days of the patriarchal fathers, Isaac, Abraham, and Jacob, if a woman was to lose, or a young daughter was to lose her virginity and it wasn't marriage, she was going to be hated. She was going to be seen as a whore. She was going to be, in some cases, cast out. She was not even going to be able to be a wife anymore. She's concubine material now, right? But I'm gonna keep going. Verse 10. In her virginity, lest she should be defiled and gotten with child in her father's house. So it says she needs to be married in her virginity, or else she's going to be defiled and gotten with child in her father's house. How many women, I guarantee you, everybody on here knows of somebody, a teenager or a young woman that lost her virginity, maybe been with multiple dudes, and she has a child in her parents' house, right? And it says that's why you have to be married. That's why we read in First Timothy, the 5th chapter, right? I will therefore that the younger women marry, bear children, guide the house, or else you're giving occasion to the adversary, right? So it says, in her virginity, lest she should be defiled and gotten with child in her father's house. And having a husband, lest she should misbehave herself. And when she is married, lest she should be barren. So it's saying she needs to get married so she won't get defiled. She needs to get married so she doesn't end up with a child in her parents' house. She needs to get married or else she's going to misbehave. She needs to get married or else she's not going to have children. That's a lot of issues that could be cleared up or prevented if she just gets married, right? Verse 11, keep a sure watch over a shameless daughter, lest she make thee a laughing stock to thine enemies, and a byword in the city, and a reproach among the people, and make thee ashamed before the multitude. This can only happen in a patriarchal system. I do not, like I posted on Instagram, I do not believe that a single mother can raise a wholesome and fulfilled and righteous child without a father in their life, because that's not the way the Most High created it. And the same thing for the father, but for the most part, I believe a father in the truth can raise a daughter better than a mother by herself in the truth, because it's a patriarchal system we're supposed to be a part of, right? So it says, keep a sure watch over a shameless daughter, or else she's gonna make you a laughing stock. People are gonna laugh at you. Oh yeah, man, she's out there, right? And a byword in the city. What is a byword? It is something that you are not actually, right? Like if your name is Barzaya and they call you John or they call you Philip, that's a byword. That's not your name, right? So it says if you're not keeping watch over your daughter, and she's gonna make you a laughing stock, she's gonna lose her virginity, she's gonna be defiled. They're gonna call her a byword. They're gonna call her a hoe, a whore, a thought, whatever they want to call her, and a reproach among the people, a shame. She's gonna bring shame to you, right? And make thee ashamed before the multitude. Everybody's gonna know, oh yeah, she gets around, right? So just to go along with what the brother had said, in a matriarchal system, a woman cannot raise the child, especially a woman. Also, of course, a man, because, or a son, because a son needs to see a strong man in order to see that and see him leading by example and strive to be that way or have those characteristics. But for a woman, even more so, right? And I was studying with my rib and my daughter and another sister the other day, and I asked them too, like, okay, so what do y'all think was the biggest difference, or what do you think would have been different if you would have had a father figure, right? The other sister and my rib, and they gave their examples, and it just goes to show that we have to have stronger male father figures. We have to have stronger husbands, because everybody's watching, right? The children are always watching, and they learn by example more so than by just speaking, right? You could say whatever you want to a child, but they're going to learn more so from your example. So a man needs to be the head of the household. A woman needs to have purpose, which is being a part of a household. A family has to be, which includes the children, has to see the woman having purpose and the man being the patriarch. If not, then we're just giving in to Satan's oldest trick in the book, right? Tawada Ak for the blessing. Shabbat Shalom to you, to all the brothers and sisters that tuned in, everybody else who's going to tune in later. Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai Barakatam. I hope all of y'all get something out of this lesson, not just verbally, but to apply to your life, right? It's like Revelation 1 and 3 says, blessed are the hearers of the word, but also those that are going to do them because the time is at hand, right? To the brother Robert Issachar, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai Barakatah, Warrior's Dream, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai Barakatah. Hope y'all stay in the spirit. Y'all have a good week. Most High willing, I'm going to do a lesson maybe Wednesday. If not, then next Shabbat. Y'all stay in the spirit. All praise to the Most High. Call halal Yahweh, Ba'asham, Hamashiach, Wa Malak Yahweh Shai. Shalom.